it off short. Quentin Johnston has the first down, and off he goes. They are not going to catch him. No flags. The magic continues for TCU.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
Shipley's going to break free. Across the 10, he's into the end zone for a touchdown. 32 yards.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
May looking, guns it in the end zone, touchdown, Carolina. Bryson Nesbitt.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Williams, and it's intercepted. Cam Smith read it so well.
Cam Smith was all over that play.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Shipley's going to break free. Across the 10, he's into the end zone for a touchdown. 32 yards.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
Well, the next couple of weeks, Craig and we will handle 365 Sports. Good afternoon. Paul Catalina is in Hawaii, flew in yesterday, and, of course, getting married this week, and then the honeymoon. He won't be back until at least the last week in June, which is also the last week in June is the week before Brigham Young, Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati officially join the Big 12 on July the 1st. So there you go with that. Craig, Baylor got a commitment. There's really nothing that is like imminent when it comes to like, oh my God, right now with college football, the landscape of whatever might be going on with various conferences. Baylor got a commitment, and am I wrong to think, and we'll hear from his father, Matt, who's a phenomenal player at TCU and also played in the NFL like his older brother did, but when I saw that, and it's great, it's a really nice pickup, but it is also 2 years from now, or less than that, a year and a half from now, so remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess people need to pick and choose on when and how they want to get excited about commits now. I think there's a somewhat damaged fan base that when it comes to the quarterback position in particular, they're not really sure that they're supposed to be excited and that they can celebrate this because their immediate thought outside of, oh, hey, that's great, is, oh, well, it's 2 years and are we going to be able to hold on to them and look at that offer list and what could that look like and who might join that and how much of a problem could that be? And that's all understandable, but, beggars can't be choosers. If you want the quarterback position to situate the way that you want it to, where you got it lined up where there's a guy in every class and, the depth is back where it needs to be. They've done a good job of being able to, wrap their hands around that situation after the Austin Novosad debacle, and now to the point where they've not only got, 3 guys in that room currently, even though R.J. Martinez isn't on scholarship right now, but they've also got quarterback commits lined up for the next couple of classes. And no, that doesn't mean they're going to, have every single one of these guys hit campus, but that's a big commit coming off a big recruiting weekend. I mean, that's a big-time player who schools with pretty bright offensive minds. A lot of those have already offered, and that includes the first opponent that they'll see this year in Texas State with G.J. Kinney. And, you look elsewhere and you see a lot of guys who know what they're doing at the quarterback spot. Jeff Traylor's UTSA Roadrunners on that list as well. Dana Holgerson, Houston on that list as well, and a few others. But, yeah, I mean, I get that sentiment, but I feel like there's been enough of the negativity and enough of the like, woe is us and oh my gosh, where's this thing headed? So something good happens, celebrate it, be happy about it. Yep. And if the shoe drops down the line, then it does, and that's just part of recruiting. But you can't sit there and look at this and go, well, I want to celebrate it, but only if I know that he's going to sign it. I mean, this is not how it works. So, yeah, celebrate that. If you're a Baylor fan, be excited about the fact that this staff that had a little bit of a whoopsie at quarterback there a few months back has done everything in their power to correct that, and they have. from seemingly every angle, including getting a couple years down the road with commits. And, hey, that's far enough down the road, too, that let's say that does happen. Let's say that, some offer comes flying in that becomes enticing or NIL or something like that. Well, he's far enough down the line that that's not going to break you, coming up in December if something were to change. So enjoy it. Hopefully he hangs on. Hopefully they hang on to him. But, yeah, that's all for worrying later on. Right now, just be happy about the fact that, a guy committed yesterday at a big-time spot, and he's a 4-star. I mean, if there's been another complaint about the quarterback spot, whether it was the handling of it or the depth, it was then the level of the prospect. So here's a 4-star guy with a nice offer list and all that, and, hey, I'm going to enjoy it, and that's a good pickup for them coming out of the weekend.
Sean Bell, Jeff Grimes, and all them, they absolutely enjoyed it because you can't have one if you don't at least get the commitment from one. And so there we are with, again, Adam Schobel, who's committed to play at Baylor, but a class of 2025 from Columbus High School. They were really good last year, 3A Division I in Texas. They were really good because here's what happened to them in the quarterfinals. They were 12-2. They were knocked out, Garrett Ross, by Franklin, two-time defending state champion Franklin, who was a buzzsaw. And it was a close game, 24-21. So there we are. Franklin, one of their running backs, Bryson Washington, already on campus now with Baylor, who was here back in January. The Elite 11. And there's some NIL news that I know kind of came about Friday. Pete Nakos of On3.com, who's a columnist who covers NIL, try to get the feedback from him on what really does any of this mean. I was playing golf Saturday morning with a guy that Ronnie Lee, who's a CPA, and I asked him about it, and he didn't seem to think it was that big of a deal from his legal perspective. But we'll have Pete at 3:30. So the Elite 11 finals will be coming up this summer. The best, or at least based on who they think Elite 11 thinks the best quarterbacks are in the country. Dylan Raiola, of course, is one of them. DJ Lagway, who committed to Florida out of Silsbee, is one of them, too. There's many of them that are there. But I did see that at the some of the quarterbacks, Haas Haney, who's going to TCU from Aledo High School, he's going. Will Hammond, who we saw last year when Hutto played Midway at the end of the year, Will Hammond, who's committed to Texas Tech. Haney, by the way, committed to TCU. He'll be a part of that. And then also Oklahoma, where are they? Michael Hawkins out of Frisco Emerson High School will be a part of the Elite 11. So the Big 12, for now, and even though OU leaving in a year, have nice representation among what are probably maybe 15 or 18, 20 guys who will be a part of the Elite 11 process.
Yeah, I mean, Nebraska, even though losing Raiola, still have, Daniel Kalen there, so that's a positive for them. But, yeah, 3 Big 12 guys. I don't know. I was impressed by Will Hammond. I
was too.
But I wasn't like, wow, that guy's going to be the next greatest quarterback in the Big 12. He was very good, but I think it was also, I just was blinded by my perspective of Midway at that point where it was just, it was just like their defense wasn't stopping anybody, So maybe you can give a better perspective because I was looking at it like, well, here's another quarterback just drilling Midway's defense, and so it wasn't really all that different to me from really anybody that they had played, quite frankly. But give me a refresher course on why he was so good, because he was good.
Oh, he could sling it.
Like I said, I was a bit jaded because it wasn't, the first time we'd seen somebody kind of light them up.
Well, they had seen some pretty good quarterbacks. The kid from Permian obviously is a good quarterback. They played on the road. You missed that game. The young man from Weiss, I thought, was really, really good. Wait, who was it? Was that a non-district game, or Weiss is a district game?
Weiss?
Who did they play at Belton at Mary Hardin Baylor? They played somebody Vandegrift.
Yeah, Austin
that
Vandegrift.
Kid was amazing, and Weiss's quarterback was pretty good. But Hutto, I thought Hammond was really, really good, because sling it, always like he managed the game, got a commitment. He's going to Tech. Will Compton used to be, I know him, not just because I talked to him last year, but he was on staff at John Tyler, which is now Tyler High School, when I covered East Texas for the longest of time, and know Will pretty well. So there's that information. So good luck. Those 3 young men, 2 of them will be a part of the Big 12 by the time they play. Oklahoma's quarterback eventually will be a part of the SEC pretty quickly, but those are 3. Dylan Raiola leads the list, and Pete Nakos will join us today at 3:30, a little bit on that too.
Yeah, and, the usual suspects, Alabama, Florida, Ohio State, Notre Dame. Now, granted, Florida's not necessarily on there every year, maybe even, every school that I mentioned there, but I feel like Alabama's quarterback's pretty typically going to be at one of these. Same with Ohio State, same with Oklahoma, same with Georgia.
Georgia's got two.
Yeah,
Georgia's got Dylan Raiola, and then also they have Ryan Pugless, who's out of Connecticut. So they have two of them going to Georgia.
Yeah, and I don't know how you pronounce his name exactly. It's spelled a little funky, Puglisi, Puglisi or Puglisi. Yeah, I don't know how you pronounce that exactly, so if somebody wants to help out there. But, yeah, Utah got Isaac Wilson, so that's great for them. But, Dante Reno, South Carolina, so great job by Beamer. So there's a little bit of a difference than maybe what we're always accustomed to seeing, but there's a handful of those usual suspects that are pretty much going to have a guy there every year. But, yeah, that's great for TCU. I know a lot of people are high on Haas Haney. I know Baylor was high on him at one point in time. And then, as we mentioned, we saw Will Hammond, and we're pretty impressed by him. So, yeah, good to see that rolling around and kind of seeing what that field looks like.
All right, so now nothing over the weekend has changed when it comes to college football realignment, and we are not one that's just going to say, oh, by the way. However, I've mentioned those many times. There's about a handful, including part of our staff with Sam Bradshaw and Brian Etheridge, and then what we do with this show, that there was supposed to be that meeting, of course, with Colorado, and who knows which ones were planned, which ones are about just administrative things, the university, separate campus, etc. But it was moved back, and kind of the story is that at the very last second, there might have been someone who just said, hey, wait a minute, I want to be much more involved in this process, whether it was a board member, a donor, could be both, but that a lot of things have maybe calmed down, and so who knows what happens. Not saying today, tomorrow, and not trying to just throw crap against the wall, hope it sticks, but this person is spot on when it comes to everything, including how he explained how Thursday's meeting was basically just said, we're done. Let's all kind of go walk away and then figure out a way to come back and discuss something different when we get a chance after maybe some of the heat had calmed down. So there's that, the possibility you could see. Put an eye out just in case that might happen today or tomorrow.
What might happen?
Yeah, Colorado is going to meet again. That they'll the meeting that was supposed to be on Thursday might be something that they post. Look for that possibility sometime today or tomorrow. All right?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be nice when all that's over with and wrapped up and tied up in a bow, and people can, truly move on to the season and all of that. I mean, it's fun to talk about. I'm starting to get a little bit fatigued by the pushing back of every, I've seen the same guy put out 15 different dates now at this point, and it's just okay, sometimes just say you don't know what's going, I don't know. I feel like there's maybe a dependence on it. I think there's a lot of fun people who cover realignment, who's the guy that you've brought up a couple, Flug Empire, or
Greg Flugall.
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed some of his stuff.
Well, that's because he was all over the USC thing.
Yeah, I've enjoyed, the various, Big 12 guys who have voices, and I know there's always at least one West Virginia guy. It seems like even if it's the same person, it's always running around like that. I treat more as entertainment. I don't treat that as really factual, and I think it's partly because whoever runs one of those accounts has said pretty much yeah, I'm just throwing stuff out there and people are, following along. So I kind of treat that for what it is. And maybe I get them confused sometimes. I don't even know if there's more than one now, as a matter of fact, but they seem to spawn at different times. And there's always a West Virginia account involved somewhere along the line. And again, I just treat that particularly as entertainment. And then, then there's just, others out there that it's just kind of, let's just keep throwing and just keep throwing and keep throwing, and then
if
eventually,
you're right one time, then everyone forgets about the 97 times you were wrong.
And it's just I don't know that does. I guess it does good for interactions and things like that, but I mean, just in terms of the conversation and the enjoyment of it, it really takes a lot of it out for me because I love the speculation part of it. I love the what about this and what about that, but when it's clearly just slinging stuff, it becomes kind of silly, and I feel like we've reached that point in some regards. So I'm hoping that, Colorado does whatever they got to do whenever they got to do it, and that this thing keeps moving on down the tracks. But, last week was one where you kind of felt like there was all this scuttlebutt, and then absolutely nothing really happened other than the Pac-12 just solidifying their defenses. If anything, they really just fortified their walls. And I left last week not thinking like, well, this thing's about to fall over the cliff. I left thinking like, well, they seem like they're in the same place they were about 7-8 months ago when they came out the last time and we're talking about the unity. And maybe it was more recently than that. So I don't know where we are in the grand scheme of things. I still feel like my initial assumption that this would result in the Pac probably just sticking together, I still lean towards that more than anything. I'm always open to the idea that something squirrely could happen, and, Brett Yormark's got an ace up his sleeve or something like that, but I am fascinated to see a conclusion, so we can then discuss that as opposed to the what if, and the what if's the fun part. I understand that, but there will be plenty of what ifs after this particular chapter. As for this chapter, though, I'm kind of ready to turn the page on this one, and I think a lot of people kind of are now, so we can all just sort of know. You know?
No, I think, believe me, and then that day you explodes for a day or two. What does it mean? Is it one school? Is it no schools? Is it two schools? What it might lead to.
And by the way, you had Joel Klatt out there today saying, I think Colorado's going to the Big 12. And so, it's an ongoing and fun topic, and every time there's somebody else that throws their opinion in there, it spices it up and flickers those flames a little bit. Now, he did say that he wasn't basing that off of anything other than the fact that, the Pac doesn't have a TV deal, to anyone's knowledge, even though there were indications that maybe that's closer than expected last week. But, there's someone else. And I think, too, that every time, you hear somebody make a prediction, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's informed, because that's automatically Joel Klatt reporting that Colorado's going to the – it's like, no, Joel Klatt, the fan of college football who just happens to, put two and two together, thinks that Colorado could very well end up in the back.
And an alum of Colorado,
yeah. And he just thinks that they could end up back there. And it's kind of like when we had Chuck Cooperstein on. Like, Chuck wasn't – I talked to Chuck was like, I'm just looking at the TV deals thinking like, I think that probably happens. And I think that's as much as what we're hearing as anything else. But, there's good info out there. There's, like I said, there's some fun accounts to follow and stuff. But I think for all of our own sanity and peace of mind now, and just to stop the war between the West and the South that's going on, or Midwest, that we need to have a ceasefire here pretty soon.
All right, so there's that. Congratulations to TCU. They're into the College Baseball World Series. Texas tonight against Stanford, Game 3 of that best of 3. Stanford, my goodness, threw up all over themselves in Game 1, had a 5-2 lead. There was an outfield error, and just like that, lose that game 7-5. It was kind of like that Texas baseball magic, despite that, again, that doesn't always work, but it does seem to. And then last night, Stanford winning. Their pitcher threw 156 pitches. I was talking to a guy today who is very much involved in cultivating arms and pitchers, and he said that it was a little bit alarming, and yet I don't know his history of how many pitches, but Stanford won. They play again tonight. The winner goes to Omaha in the College World Series. Also tonight, Tennessee and Southern Miss Game 3. The winner goes to the World Series. And how about Oral Roberts beating Oregon, winning the best of 3? And in fact, they blew the lead in Game 1 at Oregon. They're up 8-0. They lost it. So congratulations to Oral Roberts for finding their way to Omaha.
That Oral Roberts-Oregon series was a lot of fun. I mean, that whole series, all 3 games were down to the very wire, just crazy walk-offs, and that was a lot of fun to watch that series. TCU, can't say enough about the year that they're having. When I hear about these, like the USC AD job or the Iowa AD job or whatever, like, how often is Jeremiah Donati going to start being mentioned in some of these jobs with what he's done up in Fort Worth, you think? Because, we hear Mac Rhodes's and we hear Chris Del Conte, even though Del Conte's in a spot where, he openly said last week, I don't have any interest in USC, and he's at Texas. So, there's not really, much difference there. But, Joe Castiglione, he's so firmly entrenched at Oklahoma, but if he was about 20 years younger, he'd be mentioned for every hot job. Mac, as we know, at Baylor's been mentioned quite a bit, and we'll see as far as USC and if they have interest in him again and to what level. But, yeah, I would think that, Jeremiah Donati is going to be one of those guys that starts to get maybe mentioned a bit more, and rightfully so, because they've had a year of years from making the college football playoff, making the NCAA tournament, now going to Omaha, and various other accolades along the way and Big 12 titles and whatnot in various sports. It's been a great run for them. We'll see what they can do out in Nebraska, obviously, but to get there is an accomplishment in and of itself. So, they took care of business and didn't have much problem, but that Oregon-Oral Roberts series was crazy, and then Texas-Stanford we'll see tonight. That ought to be, one hell of a game. But
Texas and Stanford seem to play a lot in a lot of different sports because of who they are as athletic departments. They've been battling, of course, the last 2 years. Texas won the Directors' Cup or whatever it's called, and then Stanford had won it for 2 decades prior to that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't really remember hearing much about it ever since I remember hearing about it when it was the Sears Cup back in the 90s, and I don't know when they stopped calling it that, early 2000s maybe. I remember that, and then I don't remember really hearing about it all that much. Maybe it's just because it was a different name and I didn't acknowledge it the same. But, these last couple of years, you hear it all the time or see it all the time with Texas winning it. And I don't know. I saw a tweet about, what they would need to do to get it again. I don't know if they have I think they just won women's track and field. They just won that national title.
I was going to mention that. Florida won the men.
Yeah.
Texas won the women's. 5th time they've won the NCAA women's title. And so it was. I had seen this last week before it took off on
the
Friday.
Calculation of how they could win it again.
Texas had to beat Stanford in the baseball series. Had to win, I think, one or both. The Texas had to win a national title in track and field. And then maybe do certain things when they get to Omaha. Is that kind of tight detail?
Yeah, well, they're close to doing that, it looks like. Like I said, they won women's track and field, and now they could very well go to Omaha, but they could very well have been eliminated if Stanford held on Friday night. That was a brutal loss for the Cardinal, and they very well could have already moved on. So we'll see, again, what happens tonight, but that should be a fiery game, and they're having a pretty good year themselves. So TCU and Texas, or TCU and then perhaps Texas would be a nice couple of spots and representatives there for the Big 12.
All right, so late, I guess on the day on Friday, Ross Dellinger had a couple of tweets that he put up. The IRS saying that nonprofit NIL collectives offering tax deductions could be illegal. It's in a memo from the chief counsel saying donations made to 501c3 collectives are not tax exempt because their benefits are not incidental to exempt purposes. Also, while many expected it, this news could rock the NIL world. Dozens of collectors are receiving millions of dollars from boosters who are under the impression that their donations are tax deductible. One administrator, I'm damn sure glad we haven't done it yet. So Pete Nakos will join us and give us his feedback. While I'm playing golf on Saturday, before I'm about to hit the first shot on one, I asked Ronnie Lee I showed him the tweet. He said, whatever someone said, it's not it's not the law. There are laws. And now how that, I guess, ties into what Ross is reporting compared to what is the law remains to be seen. But that's something we'll have Pete on to discuss that with us here in just a second.
Yeah, I don't know what he was referring to about the law, and this is obviously not my area of expertise, but I don't know how those donations aren't taxable. That never made sense to me in any way, shape, or form. And like I said, I'm not an expert on all things legalese or pertaining to NIL and how all that operates, but that just never made sense to me. And that was as much of a flood of the money initially as I feel like anything was the fact that it was tax deductible was such an allure for donors or for those who wanted to, chip in that might not otherwise. So that was part of the appeal. Clearly, a lot of these organizations were set up that way because that was part of the appeal. And then there were others that were smart enough to realize, hey, that's probably not going to fly. Why? Because it just doesn't seem like it should, and, probably something legally. So we're going to go ahead and be proactive and set ours up differently. And I saw a number of those collectives that said, well, hey, we're not 501c3. We set ours up this way. And so they were already, thinking about the down-the-line decisions that could be coming. And then, I don't know, I assume a majority of others did go that 501c3 route, and so we'll see what happens, obviously. But that would be pretty massive news, and you just wonder to what extent, how massive would it be as far as donations go, and how much of the pie would get gobbled up by, the tax man finding his way into the whole thing.
Kim Coulter, Texas Tech alum, saying that I'll continue to contribute irrespective of a deduction or not because it's all about keeping Texas Tech competitive. And there's some other comments. And, of course, we will discuss that with Pete Nakos, in fact, that he is next. I know it's not college football, but if you missed the putt on the fourth playoff hole yesterday at the Canadian Open, first time in 69 years a Canadian won the Canadian Open from Nick Taylor. It was drama. It was unbelievable. I'm sitting in my chair, and I jumped out of my chair like made some kind of stupid noise. But congratulations to Nick Taylor, and a classy finish. And Tommy Fleetwood understanding the moment, and he was great the way he handled the long 72-yard putt for an eagle, 72-foot putt for an eagle that ended it out. This is the week of the U.S. Open. When we come back, Pete Nakos, On3.com, NIL columnist, and this is 365 Sports. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace in Waco is a place that can help you save money. It's a place that can help you find out what hurts. I just had last Friday an epidural, L3, L4, L5, but also in my S3 in my lower back. The only way they could figure that out was with an MRI. And an MRI that I did even a year ago that cost me $497 at Ideal MRI. And then I followed up with another one back around March or so because I still seemed like I was having something flare up after the trip, airline flight to Phoenix, sleeping on a very hard as a brick Airbnb bed as we were in Phoenix to cover the Super Bowl. Dr. Rob Maxey and his staff do an amazing job. You want two things when you get an MRI. Two things. Why is something hurting you? Back, shoulder, knee, wherever it is, and you would like it to be manageable financially because it's a budget, no matter if you're making tons of money or you're on a fixed income or you can't afford it. $497 when the average is $1,100 is phenomenal, and it can be less. It can be less because they'll file insurance papers for you too. Dr. Rob Maxey, Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace, idealmri.com.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
It's Ram season at Allen Samuels in Waco, and the deals couldn't be any hotter. Shop the greatest selection of new inventory in Central Texas and save big on Ram trucks. Now offering 10% off MSRP on a new 2023 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab, or get 2.9% for 72 months. The choice is yours. Plus an extra $500 bonus cash to first responders. Allen Samuels in Waco is the place to shop Ram trucks. Visit today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Pete Nakos, on3.com, sports business reporter for college athletics. And, of course, also very much hooked into what is going on in college athletics with NIL. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina. Paul's out until for a couple of weeks in Hawaii and getting married. Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. And, Pete, thanks for your time. So I saw the story drop Friday with some reports about the IRS and nonprofit collectives and offering tax deductions that could be illegal. Can you kind of wrap your arms around that and explain to us in layman's terms what all that means?
Yeah, so I guess the best place to start real quick is so you have all these NIL collectives spread across the Division I landscape right now. And some have registered as for-profit, some are LLCs, some are these nonprofits, right? And being registered as a nonprofit allows the collective to accept donations that are tax exempt, which then makes it a little bit more comfortable and more attractive to some of these top level donors. So yeah, the IRS put out a memo on Friday saying that from the activity that they've seen and the tax filings that they've received, they don't believe these collectives qualify to be these registered nonprofits and earn that tax exempt status. But there's a lot there's a lot more to it. The IRS just can't step in and immediately start stripping these 501c3 titles. And, it's going to be interesting to watch. And at the same time, where it was just a memo, it's not like a new bylaw, it's not a precedent. So how does that evolve? And how do we see that? Does it become something the IRS does embrace?
Pete, this couldn't have been, much of a surprise, just the discussion surrounding, like you said, nothing officially happening just yet. But what was kind of the reaction that you saw? I saw a number of collectives putting out their, their statements of hey, we're a 501 and all of that. But like you said, nothing's happened. So what's been kind of the reaction? And does everybody just sort of stay pat for right now as is? Or does the move become, hey, you probably should start gearing yourself towards, being under some other label, if you will?
Yeah, I think that, just from the conversations I've had, I think it's a lot of case by case, right? Some people have been I'm not going to change how I roll right now until I feel like there's some pressure being put on me. And then there's some folks who said, let me go talk to my attorney and see what the feedback is from my tax attorney. I think I'm not really sure what the aftermath of all this will be, but it will be interesting to see what donor fatigue, if that plays a role into it, right? A lot of these collectives already are struggling to raise dollars. At some level, is this something that really drives away your top level donor who could easily contribute 7 figures, and do they want to get just in business with an organization that might not be in the best standing with the IRS, however it shuffles up?
All right, so for those who don't know, the money that a player gets, whoever it is, from an NIL collective, the donor thinks it's tax deductible. the player knows they're going to pay taxes on that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. The question, I guess, that I have is, you see numbers that you guys have when it comes to NIL, whether it's Dylan Raiola or a kid that's a 3-star running back who's going to play for, I don't know, let's just say Missouri. How are you guys coming up with that, other than the fact you're really good at what you do? And are some of those numbers inflated?
Yeah, I'm not going to say they're inflated, but I'll also just clarify that they are projections,
okay.
Right? And they're calculated through an algorithm, and there's just like a handful of things that go into it. But I wouldn't say that they are spot on. I think that we're just trying to give an athlete a projection of what they're worth.
So, Pete, what is kind of the, I guess, next move as far as this goes? Is this a wait-and-see game overall and just wait on the government, which could be, I mean, in that case, who knows when? Or is there actually, maybe a beacon on the horizon to kind of look forward down the line where something else may develop in in terms of this part of the story?
Yeah, so, like, in terms of the IRS, I mean, I'm in contact with the IRS and trying to get some answers. I think that there's a lot of questions that need answers to and what it exactly means, right? So I think that's kind of wait and see. At the same time, I was in D.C. last week, and obviously Charlie Baker and the NCAA are putting a whole lot of pressure on Congress to enact federal legislation. It seems like the deadline for that is the end of the year, right before the 2024 presidential cycle kicks into gear. But I got to tell you guys, it does not really seem like there's a lot of momentum to that. It doesn't really. I talked to some lawmakers last week. It doesn't exactly come across like they're enthralled by college athletics, and there's just the blunt and honest reality that that NIL and college athletics, like, it's all really important and interesting to us, but is it really enough for a legislator to go home and run a campaign on? Is it more important than China and the Ukraine? I'm not sure about that.
Pete, what was your overall take from, we had Brian Murphy from WRAL TV in, I think, Charlotte, who was watching that on online. What was your take about that? Was it just a dog and pony show, even though there were some alphas there? Or was just another meeting? Because Charlie Baker seemed to be at least more precise in how he presented their argument.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie Baker was on point, and it was very clear that he has a background in politics. But at the same time, yeah, it did kind of feel like a dog and pony show. And obviously, the SEC set up its delegation to the Hill, and I don't know. It just doesn't really seem like that. There's the saying, right? Like, just being active doesn't create movement. I don't think we're seeing movement, and I just don't think that we're seeing. Obviously, Charlie Baker and the NCAA would like to see something done, but I don't think we're like close to seeing a bill come up for a vote. One last thing I'll say is, right, so college athletics reform has kind of been a topic on the Hill now for roughly 4 years, and I mean, not a single piece of legislation has even made it to a vote in the House or Senate. So we can keep talking about it, and obviously it seems like it's the only thing the NCAA is going to do to try to enforce NIL, but it doesn't. Just not a priority right now, and it doesn't really seem like we're going to see anything for the time being.
Yeah, man, every time that this gets brought up, or Charlie Baker's going to do this, or this twist is going to happen, I just feel like the conversation keeps going in the same direction, and there's really just – I know why. The NCAA is begging for help, Pete, but it's just like you said, it just seems there's no sign, and I've just wondered, okay – Charlie Baker was hired for a specific reason. He's doing that right now, and we just, referred to it. But, at what point do they – I mean, does it take another 4 years? At what point do they say, like, okay, this is clearly not going to work out, so what do they – I mean, do they not have anything to pivot to? Is that part of the problem, or is it just, hey, we're going to stay in this fight till we can't fight anymore, and that might be futile anyways?
Yeah, I mean, the NCAA doesn't have subpoena power, which is the big thing. But we don't need to get into that conversation. I think the one thing that we should all keep an eye on, though, is Greg Sankey and the SEC have teased the idea of trying to align all their state NIL laws so then all the SEC schools are on the same playing field. It's not the kind of thing that's going to happen overnight. Some state legislatures have kind of shut down until like January. But I think that might be like the fix all, at least for SEC schools, that we could see come together in the next, 6 to 8 months.
With that in mind, a couple of SEC schools will be affected by this, but each state's gone about kind of doing their own thing, right? And Texas recently making a move in that regard as well, correct?
Correct. Governor Greg Abbott signed the new law in Texas on Saturday, and it's a big middle finger to the NCAA. It kind of says, hey, you're not going to really be able to come in here and mess with us. It also allows for the 12th man plus entity that's operating at A&M right now to like really be able to happen without being touched. So yes, there's a lot going on. But yeah, what the move made by Texas this weekend was smart.
Apparently on Joe Klatt's show, Deion Sanders earlier today, in fact, I saw that you retweeted this, that he is NIL is not a problem with me, collectives are. What do you mean? What does he mean by that?
So I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but Deion's take was athletes should be able to market themselves and make dollars off of brand deals and things like that. The thing that Deion really dislikes is these collectives that we have popping up all across the landscape right now that are truly turning this into a pay-for-play game, and have the backup offensive lineman all of a sudden has the power to like command X amount of dollars or demand X amount of dollars, and how a lot of this elite recruiting that we always love to talk about and follow has turned into bidding wars. That's the part that Deion hates. He thinks that his quarterback or whoever, they're probably marketable and they can sign an endorsement deal, but he does not like collectives.
You know, I mentioned this earlier in the show. I don't think I mentioned it with you on the show yet, but I asked a CPA on Saturday when I saw him about the reports about the IRS and the 12-page memo, and it kind of what you alluded to earlier. And he said he read it. I showed him like a tweet or two from Ross Dellinger, and he said to me, "That's not the law." Like that you said, it might be a memo, it might be something they're discussing, but that has nothing to do with right now. Correct? That it's not a legal issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Spot on.
So who do you think has the best NIL, or what are the best collectives in your opinion?
Tennessee, Oregon, A&M, Texas, and Austin. Who else? I think USC is doing it pretty successfully right now, but I don't know how much money they have in their bank, but they seem to be doing pretty well with it. They just got Barry Alexander out of the transfer portal. Auburn's been pretty successful. You look at some more Big 12 schools. I think Texas Tech has done a pretty outstanding job. Oklahoma is setting the framework to be successful. I think it'll be interesting to see how that goes when they make the jump to an SEC. ACC wise, I think Florida State is probably like a big dog right now, and Clemson has been pretty successful. And in the Big Ten, it's no surprise there. It's in Ohio State. Wisconsin, I would say, is actually pretty good as well. And Penn State and Michigan are trying to figure it out.
So everyone you mentioned is kind of in that blue blood category. Texas Tech, of course, has a really good NIL situation going on. They're not blue blood, although they're successful in certain things. But almost every one of those, aren't those among the elite blue bloods in college football?
Yes, I would say so. And I mean, I'm not sure if you guys have ever really delved into this, but if you really look at things closely, right, like the richest states in the institutions with the largest alumni base and most successful alumni are the schools that we're constantly talking about being successful in NIL because they just have the richest fan base, right? Like it's not it's not really a stunner, right? But like Texas, I mean, Texas is an extremely rich state with oil, and the thing I like to look at sometimes is endowment size, right? And like A&M has one of the largest endowments in the country, and you can compare it right next to the Ivy League. Like, So I think that's a good way to look at it. And like you said, the Blue Bloods are continuing to win, but we're also seeing some schools that maybe have not been in the spotlight kind of come back around. And right now, like a Tennessee, like really was not finding this rate of success like it has been for the last 15 years. So just interesting to see how NIL is kind of making college football evolve.
Yeah, I think in some cases for schools like UT, Tennessee, and Texas, it came along at just the right time to kind of give them a little bit of a boost. Not that they weren't maybe trending. Somebody wanted to clarify. I mentioned almost all of them Blue Bloods. I didn't mention Tech. Obviously have respect for them, but someone said, don't put A&M in the Blue Blood category. There's always the argument of who is and who isn't. And when it comes to college football, no matter their massive alumni base or whatever, they are not a college football Blue Blood. But they act or try to act like one. All right, Pete, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it, buddy. Always good to follow you on Twitter and get a chance to talk with you on the show.
You bet. Awesome, guys. Have a great Monday.
Pete Nakos on 3.com. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so nothing's changed. And, you know, the story that never ends keeps on going forward. And I'm not talking about realignment, but just the desire for some NIL broad legislation, government intervention, whatever you want to refer to it as, Charlie Baker miracle work. That all continues. Meanwhile, Texas just signed a bill that is going to basically allow for more freedom and less chance of stepping on a landmine if you're one of these collectives in Texas and, drawing the ire of the NCAA. Basically have shielded themselves from NIL-related violations through the NCAA with what Greg Abbott signed on Saturday. So they're just one of the latest states to jump or throw their hat into the ring or jump into the ring as far as, saying, all right, we're going to watch out for ourselves here. And I don't know what the next steps are for trying to push this thing through. But as Pete said, and as we've said the entire time, like, there's just so many other things that are so much more important than this when it comes to our government. Like, this is a fly on the wall.
A tick on an elephant's
ass.
Yeah,
it really is. I mean, it's nothing to them in comparison to Russia and the Ukraine invasion and, China and, just our own backyard and all of those different things that are going on right now and will always be going on. Yeah, there's no need in my mind for them to run to the table and help college athletics out. So, that'll be interesting to continue on tracking. But in the meantime, people are going to go do what's best for them. And the state of Texas, did that as I mentioned, and that should help all of the schools involved. But it's an interesting landscape that we're in, and the 501c3, I guess you can breathe easy for now. I'm sure that probably caught a few people off guard on Friday when that alert came up or something like, oh, wait a second, those who are deeply invested or involved. But then again, maybe some of them are like Kim, who, it doesn't matter. They're going to just keep donating the same amount regardless. But I would have to imagine for some people that will change. It may not be to where you're not donating at all, but it might slice a little bit off of what you were given originally, and that adds up over time depending on how the structure is. So, something to keep in mind.
Couple of comments on this. If somebody gets a certain amount of NIL, this is from the chat room, somebody gets a certain amount of NIL, they should also then have to pay a certain amount for their education. Athletics and education, I think Kim even brought this up, they're no longer together. And secondly, if in fact a young man or woman gets NIL, it's supposed to be in addition to whatever they're doing as a student athlete or whatever they might be getting on scholarship. So if let's say a guy, a women's basketball player got $25,000 a year NIL, then what is she gaining if she's also going to end up paying for her education? There was the longest time I was staunchly against student athletes being paid. I've changed dramatically about that, but if you give them NIL and then say, okay, but you have to now pay for your scholarship, they're not gaining much. If someone's making $800,000,
they're actually in a worse spot because the education was free.
Yep.
And the books were free.
No, it's got to be in addition to.
Yeah, the meals were free and the housing was free. And then, eventually you go out on your own and maybe that apartment's not free anymore. But, that defeats the entire purpose of NIL. I mean, the whole part of it is to give them more than what they had been receiving in a cut of the pie, so to speak, or a way to get some of the icing on the top of the cake. And there's really just no argument against it. I guess in my younger years was afraid of the idea of just what it would look like. And I think that led me to, the belief that, well, they're already getting all these other things. You hear that argument. And I kind of was that old way of mine. The more I thought about it, I'm like, actually, no, that's not, I mean, they're bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars and they're expanding the playoff and they're doing all these things and all that money's flowing and flowing and flowing. And yet, it's not really coming back to the athlete. And I understand the argument is then, well, they're getting a $50,000 education, all that. And like, that's where I really was at my, I guess, most anxious about this whole thing was I did hate the fact that we just kind of threw things to the wayside like they're nothing. Like a $50,000 a year education is treated like it's absolutely nothing, even though there's how many countless kids that are going into severe debt for that same education, but yet we're told like it doesn't even count. It's the same as getting the free gear, basically, when you hear people discuss the scholarship. And I thought that was insane. I still think that's insane. And I know, well, it's not like they're in class all, like there's this whole argument about the education piece, but like don't tell me that this stuff that other people are going into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt over to secure a good job in the future is nothing to the athletes. I mean, I disagree there, but I understand it's a different set of circumstances.
Well, we know that there are some athletes that go to college to become pros and all that.
But that's not the majority of it,
But that doesn't mean they can't lean on it if, in fact, they don't make it. That degree makes a difference.
Well, also, it's not the majority of it. You're talking about the star running back. I'm talking about, like, the tennis team and the golfers and all the people who aren't going to probably play pro that are getting value out of that education. Now, then you can say, well, they don't all get full scholarship. So, like, it just goes in circles. Point being that you can divvy up this argument into 1,000 different pieces on what's what and all of that. But in the end, I mean, they deserve to get a sliver of the pie, and, that's part of what's being figured out right now. And in the meantime, the schools aren't going to relinquish their ironclad grip on TV money and all those types of things. So where else can you get it? You get it through the NIL piece, and that's how they're supplementing that. And maybe in the future that changes where they do get a sliver of the actual pie as employees, but we're not there yet. And in the meantime, I think it's long overdue, just my opinion.
When we come back, the 5 o'clock hour just around the corner, not sure about Chris Level after he just told me that he had dropped his cell phone at lunch into water.
I mean, if you don't want to talk to us, it's fine. I mean, dropping your cell phone in water.
Yeah, I know.
Come on.
I know, Chris. My God. So there we are. And Tech got a nice commitment today from a kid out of Prosper, a 4-star offensive lineman, as they are bringing in some talent. Obviously, there's a lot of discussion about where some of the NIL money comes from for certain schools. We'll come back and share some of that with you and more. And this is 365 Sports.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry, and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
All right, a couple of notes here. I saw this note earlier today. Ben Strauss on Twitter that The Athletic laying off nearly 20 reporters today, or about 4% of their journalistic staff as part of the company reorganization, from an internal note from publisher David Perpich and also EIC Steven Ginsburg. I traded a text or two with Sam Kahn. It is not a college football-related story. So that's good, because we have numerous I guess you could say numerous writers who cover college football. I don't believe it's pro football either. So it does appear to be as if it's the college football writers all seem to be pretty safe.
Bob Sturm's out from the ticket, and he covered the Cowboys.
And he's really good at what he does.
About the Cowboys, but John Machota also does that on a deeper level. Bob, I think, mostly just wrote like articles,
X's and O's stuff.
Whereas, John's more of a beat writer type of guy. So, yeah, I mean, there's one example of an NFL guy, so to speak, that got cut. I've always wondered kind of like the trajectory of the Athletic, take aside our love for guys like Sam or Max or, all of those different folks. Outside of that, if you do keep up with the business side of things, you're like, where's the money coming from? And, then you see the influx of an investment or, being bought by the New York Times, which they were, what was that, about a year or so ago. And, that obviously, gave them a different sort of foundation to work off of. But, apparently still losing money. And this part of it, from what I was reading, was more or less just, trimming some areas that are, I guess, not doing enough for them or what. I don't know. But I did see a lot of reactions about the fact that, the New York Times buys you for like $500 million and now you're making cuts. How often do we see that with businesses? Got to trim that fat and, get as much money and profit as possible. So I hate that. They did spread their wings pretty far and wide. They were pretty ruthless coming out of the gates as well. So I know that there's a lot of people that won't feel pity for the Athletic at all, even if it's not the writers themselves that were a part of the wanting to crush local newspapers, as their founders said it in the very beginning. They went and got local beat writers from all these various papers and had all of these specific city coverage sites, some of which they're kind of starting to shutter now or I guess back away from. But, I mean, they came out of the gate swinging and saying they wanted to be the next big thing, and I think that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And then you saw they put together basically this massive all-star collection of like every writer known to man practically, and, then kind of puff their chest out over that. And it just for those who want the local newspaper to still thrive and those that want the local beat guy to still be as relevant, there's some things that rub people the wrong way. So fascinated to see what direction that takes. But as you said, 4% of the overall workforce. Hate it for those people. It's a rough time. You start to wonder, too, if, sports media is starting to correct itself. I've seen that comment a couple times, but you really do wonder, just the world in general, post-COVID, if we're fully coming out on the other side of that and everything's starting to kind of revert a little bit back more towards the norm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I tell you what we've seen with online writing. We've seen ESPN, not even the current part, have massive, CBS Sports. A lot of online places go crazy early and then have to trim or just cut back dramatically. And this is 20 out of 4% of it's not a lot, but it's people's jobs and their livelihood. So I'm glad that when Sam texted me back that everything was good with those who cover college football, because in fact, Kennington Lloyd-Smith, who covers Alabama, is going to join us today at 4:30 to talk with him, discuss with him about the Crimson Tide. I agree with you. It's like the newspapers have been really, we understand what they've dealt with. I started hearing this 20, 25 years ago. Some of them are out of business. Some of them are in deep trouble. Some of them are struggling. How many papers do they sell every day? Is more of it online than it is actually in print? The cost cutting has been amazing across the board. And if you're in the newspaper business, it's not a lot of fun. Not a lot of fun.
And I think that extends too, though, look at TV and all the massive layoffs ESPN's made. Look at, I think, sports radio. Some ventured out to YouTube like us, but we were on regular radio prior to this, and there's plenty of other regular radio that's still out there. But I feel like that industry is kind of just slowly sort of shrank over time as well. And I think the days of having, unless you're in Boston or New York or certain places, the days of having the morning through night crew, 20 people on staff and I think those days are starting to wane a little bit. And there's places where it'll never be affected, probably like Philadelphia, Boston, New York, the areas like that. But I do think, even just look at Dallas. They're facing a little bit of pinch here and there.
It used to be the Times-Herald. Used to be a lot of things.
Well, I mean, not even just paper. I'm talking radio.
Yeah.
I'm talking about sports radio, too, just in general. So I do think there's a post-COVID media correction that's going on a little bit. Not totally. It's not affecting, the influencers out there and that whole world, because they're still going to be thriving with TikTok and all of that. But I think for some areas it has sort of started to correct itself.
Couple of college basketball notes from today. Grant Nelson, who Baylor was on, remember, has made the decision to commit to Alabama. 6'11" forward who averaged 18 points, 9 rebounds a game at North Dakota State. And then this was one that's interesting. Simeon Wilcher, who was committed to Kentucky, has now committed to Rick Pitino at St. John's. He was a 6'4" guard out of New Jersey, ranked among the top ESPN 100. So a couple of college basketball notes to bring your way. And still nothing new on Jalen Bridges, which is, kind of out there now. But I think it's still trending towards he will be playing for Baylor next year, but nothing yet official on that. All right, Garrett, let's break here and see if, in fact, Chris Level is available, if he's got his phone fixed or not. And if not, we have plenty to get to, including getting to the chat room and a lot more. And this is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. I had a bone-in ribeye that I bought there several weeks ago. I freeze-dry that, and then I also then take it out the night before, let it thaw, and cooked one last night, and it was delicious. Waco Custom Marketplace, though, is about the grocery store atmosphere. Whether you're looking for pasta or chips, marinade or seasoning. Yes, there's a full-service butcher shop and also a full-service bakery there for you. When you walk in the door off to the right, there's a big, huge, almost a wall filled with the soda, energy drinks, beer, and wine cold that you like it. And then, of course, in the butcher shop, not only is there seafood, but also there is beef, pork, and poultry for you. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
The future's bright. The time is now. College is what you make it. It's a late-night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
All right, Paul out for the next couple of weeks. Here we are. We start this 4 o'clock hour, 365 Sports. Chris Level, as the text I told you earlier today, I got it right before the show started. He dropped his phone in water. He's trying to get everything downloaded, backloaded, whatever that would be. It's not going to be in time. And so we'll get him on sometime tomorrow. Over the next couple of weeks, we will try and make sure that we will get somebody, analyst, broadcaster, writer, who covers all 14 of the Big 12 teams and kind of get over, a summary and preview in sports, men's basketball, obviously football, but more as we head into the early months here of summer. Paxton said that listening to games on the radio are fun. You have to use your imagination. He was talking about how certain things have changed, like AM radios in some cars now. There was a time when they weren't in certain vehicles, and Katie Rader was saying some new cars are not carrying AM radio now.
That's correct. Yeah, mine is a few years old now, so it was a major adjustment up for me from the piece of crap that I was driving that was breaking down all the time to get into something that was just a little bit more digital, and it's still equipped with all of that. But I guess maybe by the next time I roll around and get one here, hopefully in the very long future, that might be the case, and that's not, I guess, all that surprising to hear. And I, to be clear, wasn't reading the last rights to sports radio or anything like that. There's still very much a place for it, especially in some of the cities that I mentioned. But I don't know. I just get the feeling it's just not at its peak power anymore. And I don't know. I think you probably saw signs of that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still got its place, but just not as much as it maybe once did. So kind of like newspapers in that way, but, still around, still there, still you can find it. It's just maybe not as in many places or in abundance the way that it once was, and it's been replaced by, in a lot of ways, podcast and everything like that.
Podcast is something you could do, and we've been very, very fortunate with our growth, but there used to be, I believe, 4 to 5, 3 or 4 afternoon talk shows in the Dallas market. Now you have what really might not even be one of them that's a sports talk show, but it's a sports station, and then you have another one that is a station, The Fan in Dallas. It has 2 professional sports teams that they broadcast. It's just not the same. ESPN Radio is a shell of itself.
Well, that's kind of what I was referring to. Yeah, it was an article that I read.
Not even on in Dallas anymore.
Yeah. Oh, is that right?
I don't think so.
Wow. Yeah, I really where my thoughts originally came from was an article I'd been reading about how ESPN Radio is like, are they going to turn off the lights soon just because there's not, there's not as much of a demand for it or an investment in it as there once was when it used to be a big deal, and that you had Cowherd on there, and you had Kornheiser before that, and you had Dan Patrick, and you had, you still have a good slew of guys, but it's not what it once was. Yeah, and you can tell kind of the investment there, I think, is not quite what it once was either. So yeah, I read that somewhere the other day, and it was interesting to see that.
Yeah, maybe that they still carry the National, but the National is a shell of itself. I'm not sure if they even is on in the Dallas market.
People don't want National; they want their tailored to them type of programming, and so you tune in, you don't want to hear about the Yankees all the time. You want to hear about the Astros or whatever.
They are not listed in the cities or affiliates in the state of Texas.
Okay, wow. Yeah, crazy.
They're not. So there you are with that. Now, we got a lot of good stuff going on in the chat room right now. Let's just kind of look at some of what is there. When there's Kim, who's a Texas Tech guy, saying that when he was of course he's tied into Tech, that he felt like Dana Holgorsen had been campaigning to get back to Texas Tech to be a part of what they do. And like when he was at West Virginia, or maybe even before he left for Houston. So that's going on there. Let's see. Kim, I'm not making this up because it was extremely well known. Dana lobbied for Tech while he was at West Virginia. That wouldn't surprise me. He's got connections to that area. Also, let me see here. When someone mentions Tech, this would be a good segment for right now. If I bring up a school, what is the first thing you think of when it comes to college football? All right? Garrett, you want to go on with us on this one?
Let's do it.
All right. Texas Tech. Some people on here are saying they still think, even though it's been a long, long time, not even Patrick Mahomes, they think of Spike Dykes.
Oh, I was going to say Michael Leach, actually.
All right. I would have said Leach before Dykes as well, even though I remember the time that Dykes was at Texas Tech.
I would say Leach as well. My immediate thought went to Joey McGuire, honestly.
Okay. All right.
I'd say Mahomes or Mike Leach, yeah.
All right. Oklahoma State.
Gundy.
Yeah. Even though they've had Thurman Thomas
man,
or
I'm
Barry Sanders or whatever. Iowa State.
I think a lot of the answers are going to be your head coaches, honestly.
Coach now?
I think so. I think that's kind of the game too, right? They're as much the superstar as anybody because the players come and go. But yeah, I'd say Matt Campbell.
Probably, yeah. I didn't really have anything come to my head when he said Iowa State.
All right, I'm going to test you then. West Virginia.
I think of the article I saw.
You know what
I
think of Major Harris? I think of Major Harris.
Major Harris. That's the thing. Is like I'm kind of like zeroing in on the modern day. And, yeah, I think for some people they probably think of Major Harris or something like that comes to mind. And I probably should be thinking more along the lines of it's Pat White or someone like that. But I'm thinking of, like, right now the face of the program, and that's probably where I'm erring as much as anything. I did see, I don't know if y'all caught it, that comment. I need to go back and find it. I thought I might have bookmarked it, but that undisclosed Big 12 coach said that West Virginia's basically got like an FCS roster.
Like a Sun Belt
roster. That. Yeah, that was you clearly didn't see that. But
no, I did not.
There was an anonymous Big 12 coach that made the comment about West Virginia, and I need to go get the article for context, but basically said that they have like a Sun Belt roster.
That roster beat Baylor last year.
It did, yeah.
Because of the horrible fumble near midfield when Baylor was controlling the game that was run back for a touchdown.
Yep.
That just flipped the switch from crazy things that could happen in Morgantown. I'll just throw one out. I'm going to try to get outside the conference now. Missouri.
Chase Daniels.
That's the first name that.
All right.
Chase Daniels.
Chase Daniels.
All right.
Yep.
By the way, on another story, I'm going to also go to the chat room with Paxton. Listening to game broadcast on the radio are fun because you almost have to use your imagination. The best compliment to anybody that's ever broadcast a game on the radio is that if someone tells you they felt like they were there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always going to be a place for that, no matter what, because, not even every game's on a sports station. It could be on your local news station, wherever it is, depending on, the city and the club and the history and all of those things. But, yeah, I love listening to Eric Nadel, but he's barely even on anymore. I don't even know how often he's on, and therefore I don't listen to the Rangers, for example, as much as I would. But if I'm in the Carter in a Cowboys game, and I love listening to Brad Sham and Babe Laufenberg, and I do like having to still use my brain. I would imagine too, though, that probably is as much of a difference between this, I guess, people my age or roundabouts and like 20 years down the line, like current Baylor students or current college students, is like, I don't know this because I don't have kids, but do like 18, 19-year-olds think the idea of like having to listen to the radio and picture it, is that like just no-go automatically because they need like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of my daughter.
Everything's video.
You're
it's on your
with
phone.
visual.
Yeah.
Like all we hear about is visual. I want videos. And it's like, it's all about seeing something. And so I wonder, like, how popular is, like, the sports broadcast on the radio traditionally?
Radio is normally a older
right.
male-dominated audience.
But I still grew up with it. This generation's not growing up with it, really. So that's what I wonder of, like, how much of a disconnect. Like, if they heard that, would they just be totally bored out of their minds having to try to visualize the local radio broadcast? Or is that just as simple as it was when I was growing up? I don't know. It's just random aside.
I got a note here in a second. Let me know, Garrett, when you come up. It's Houston-related with Kelvin Sampson. We'll get that. It's not. We'll try to do it in this segment as well. One of the other things about local television stations are now not locally owned. Local radio stations, very few of them are locally owned because you started back, 20 years or so ago when you started having these big conglomerates that bought everything up and then they made everything. You're like, you could have a station that's music in Tulsa that's being played out of L.A. that's also in San Antonio, although some stations remain pretty local as well. Let's see here. If someone says Missouri, I think of the battleship, the USS Missouri.
Okay.
All right, there you go. I love that.
Yeah.
Phil Bradley, the former quarterback, hell of a player back in the day for Mizzou. Okay, Oklahoma. Stoops, Adrian Peterson, one of the Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. Barry Switzer, who do you think of?
I'll probably say Switzer. He's like to me, that's the man.
I had like 100 names pop up in my head. The first one that popped in my head was Kyler Murray, but there's just too many similar. I think Bob Stoops, as far as the modern day goes, and again, probably going too many coaches here. If we designated like you can only name a player. I don't know who I'd come up with now because I've already thought about it. But yeah, I think of Bob Stoops, but Kyler Murray popped right into my head for some reason. But he's on similar footing to other guys, so he's not really separated in that way, even though he popped in my head first.
So when I mentioned West Virginia, Gary Wilson, I get it. Pat McAfee.
Yeah, sure.
West Virginia grad, played in the NFL, now probably makes as much money as anybody, any kind of you would call podcast or talk show type business with what he's doing.
Yeah, I don't know where he fits with like Cowherd and Patrick and whoever else is up, Stephen A. Whoever else, but he's got to be way up there.
I think he's probably like going back to tying together what you were just talking about. I think he's the face of the new generation.
Oh yeah,
yeah, you go, yeah.
And going back to what I was talking about, everything kind of correcting itself, and he's not going to be on ESPN.
Exactly.
And he's still going to be on YouTube, so he knows what he's doing there because that would have been a massive mistake to pull off of YouTube because that's where it all started for him. And I think the loyalty would have taken a bit of a hit there if he had turned his back on those folks. But
what did you say about ESPN?
I mean, he's joining ESPN.
Right, but he's going to continue his podcast.
He's still going to be on.
Yeah.
No. His show is staying the exact same, but it's going to air on ESPN.
Okay.
But also YouTube. He started on YouTube. That's where it all started.
Right.
So he's one of the YouTube pioneers, I guess, if you will, of sports shows like this one. And, everything that's just sprouted off. But no, like that was part of the condition was that he's still going to have his free over-the-air YouTube show while it's airing on ESPN. Instead of just going all ESPN. And I said that was smart because I think if he would have eliminated the YouTube part of it or even just like posted it hours later, I think that would have taken a hit for his audience because those people who were loyal to him would have taken that as a little bit of disrespect and like him changing his colors. But yeah, absolutely, he should come to mind for a lot of people, I would imagine, when West Virginia gets brought up.
QWERTY, McAfee will never be the same because he's now going to be censored. Now, I read a little bit about that. I mean, you got to be you can't drop an MF or whatever. There's certain things on YouTube you can drop whatever you want, and sometimes we even slip, and I have. But I read that they are not going to neuter him.
Well, I don't think he can come out just dropping F-bombs, but I think if he wants to say like, I'm tired of this shit, like I think he can say that and be fine, or any other number of expletives. But yeah, I don't think he can go out there dropping like the heaviest of bombs on, like a regular basis and be okay with that. Like there's going to be just a line of class to draw in the sand somewhere, and he's aware of that. But yeah, apparently he's going to have pretty much free reign within reason, and that's how you're justifying to your audience of like, no, they're not going to change us. We're still going to have the ability to cuss and riff and do all of those types of things. That's what they're saying, and no reason to believe otherwise. But my point being is like you're starting to see more of that traditional kind of turn back in the post-COVID. Yep. I think him now landing on an ESPN is sort of a sign of that.
All right. Someone said, hey, I like this. We're not going to do this very often. It's just we're Chris Level not available. We decided to kind of jump into it. And based on also kind of what was going on with the chat room, more options, more discussion on who would be the first person you brought up when it comes to OU. I mean, numerous names. I think that, again, when you have that kind of history, whether it's Bosworth or whether it's Marcus Dupree because of that unique story, or Switzer or one of the Heisman Trophy winners, or Stoops or whoever, there is tons of discussion. Yep. Billy Sims, you could go on and on with that history like you could with Texas.
My favorite football player is Adrian Peterson, and he came to mind, but just wasn't as quickly as Bob Stoops came to mind. But yeah, I mean, there's just from the last 10 years alone, you could come up with any number of guys that might pop out first. Multiple Heisman Trophy winners. They've had a pretty great run, but yeah, they go way back too. I mean, they can cover all the bases, so it's cool to see that there's so many different names popping up from your modern day guys to way back in what Switzer was doing in the 70s, 80s, and you can go back to Steve Owens if you want, keep going back. You go back to
Bud
the 50s
Wilkinson.
For Heisman Trophy winners and national championships,
All right, so when I think, and I bring up Notre Dame, Garrett, first thing.
Lou Holtz.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Last time they won a national title in 1988. When I visited the campus when I covered a women's regional tournament there, Touchdown Jesus. And that's an awe-inspiring situation. That really is pretty awesome. I mean, that campus is incredible. And I went there during, obviously, when it was like snowing or whatever, but it got a lot of history. When I think of Notre Dame, I think of Ara Parsegian, and he coached in the 60s. So, but you mentioned
Parsegian's your answer then.
I would say Parsegian as a human being, yeah. Touchdown Jesus is a big mural.
I'm trying. Yeah, I was gonna say because now we could get into like, well, I like this stadium is the first thing that pops to mind. So yeah, I'm glad you followed up with a person, a person representative. Honestly, if I tried to keep my mind clear every time you riff off the school so that I can just first name that pops to mind. And Manti Te'o was the first name that popped into mind. It honestly was. It really was the first name that came to mind. So yeah, Manti Te'o for me for Notre Dame, and that's some. I don't know if that's unfortunate or not. I know everything's smoothed out there. You know, he was at a game, everything's all good. You know that they had the big Netflix follow-up documentary on that whole situation, and we're kind of able to put a bow on everything. And man, what a weird deal that was at the time.
I never watched the documentary. I probably need to do that.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile just to kind of know, because I don't know how many people really know everything about that story exactly. Like, I still see people like poo-pooing on Manti, and it's like, if you realize, like, if you were, I don't know, it's just a really bizarre thing.
That was a crazy, we get more of that crazy.
We didn't know about catfishing. Yeah. We didn't know what that was.
We get more crazy now because of social media and also everything. All right, I mentioned this, and here I'm going to give you the answers. You guys give me your names, and I'm going to read off what was just put in the chat room. USC.
Reggie Bush.
First name that popped in my head was Matt Leinart.
OJ. Reggie Bush. OJ. Ronnie Lott. Pete Carroll, OJ, Marcus Allen, OJ, Carson Palmer. Yeah, that's enough of that. We got the trend there, I think, with that one. That was what was kind of, but OJ, first of all, he was a phenomenal running back, Heisman Trophy winner, and then, of course, incredible, broke the record at Buffalo with the Bills, but then now more known. In fact, I saw something pop up on my Twitter feed. With him giving advice about this country.
I don't think, though, that probably the most of our audience are mentioning him for the later reasons. I think they're mentioning him because they remember USC football with O.J. Simpson running the pill.
Yeah, but some of these are 25 to 40-year-olds. All right, on the chat room, why did you mention O.J.? And there's no wrong answer here. Was it because of who he was at USC or because of what happened with the murder accusations?
Yeah, I mean, I think it might be a bit of both, but I don't know. I feel like there's probably some wanting to joke or just, hit that punchline again on OJ and USC, but I don't think of USC when I think of OJ, though. Mm-mm. I think of the Bills more than I think of USC, quite frankly.
I always remember listening to him break the record with the Buffalo Bills, the 2,000 whatever yards rushing in a season on radio in Japan. At like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, little did you know, years later, how
I interviewed him at the Super Bowl the year that all hell broke loose that summer too.
Yeah, well,
great, very, very great personality. Was incredibly nice.
Yeah, I mean, he's got an audience still to this day. Of some sort, but yeah, he was a great football player, no denying that. A little bit too much out of my wheelhouse age-wise to appreciate him. I knew him for all the other reasons, and before that, like TV commercials and a little bit of movies and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I give the benefit of the doubt to the chat room that they all just think like, OJ joke, and a lot of people probably actually did watch him, and they think of USC football because they watched OJ Simpson.
Well, I do.
Run the exactly.
I do. Some mentioned it was because of his commercials when he was in the NFL jumping over suitcases. He was one of the highest seen, I guess you could say, endorsers of anything product when it came to television for the longest of time. One mentioned the white Bronco, Marcus Allen, with what year he had at USC, Reggie Bush because of jumping for touchdowns. And then, so there's a lot of that. With Anthony Davis, I think of Anthony Davis. He played at USC. I was listening on the Far East Network at about 3 o'clock in the morning, scored 6 touchdowns against Notre Dame in a game that I happened to be listening to when there was no internet. There was the only way you could be a part of live sports was on the radio at 3 o'clock in the morning because of the time differences. So there we are with that. When we come back, Kennington Lloyd-Smith covered Iowa for The Athletic for the longest of time. He now gets the assignment of covering Alabama. We've heard so much about their offseason, and he has a chance now. He's been there long enough. Pick his brain on Alabama football. That is next, and this is 365 Sports. PettyClinicalOT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. And what happens as you get older, Father Time takes over a lot of things, from your body to how it's shaped to what's going on inside, including testosterone levels can drop. It's part of that. There's nothing you can do about the Father Time factor. The clock is ticking, right? Some have issues with that more than others when it comes to low testosterone, just like, unfortunately, some people have more issues with high blood pressure, cholesterol, and etc. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, used to be, and need to be. And here's how you get that done. If you've been sluggish, if your sex drive is not the same, if you think or you've had tests and your testosterone levels are low, contact them, pettycliniclot.com. They will then send you to get your blood work, get the results, and if your testosterone level is too low, Dr. Petty can put you in a program to increase your testosterone levels so you can get back to who you were. You can be the man you want to be, used to be, need to be at pettycliniclot.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Aaron Duvall, owner, Texas Beef House. Why did you get into this business?
We kind of were born into it, and it's been for several generations. Our family's been in the beef business, the ranching business, and we've specifically got into the beef business back in about 2015 when me and my son decided to form Texas Beef House and sell directly to the public.
Aaron, everyone knows about Wagyu and how elite that is when it comes to beef. What separates you from anyone else that may do this in this type profession?
We selected out Wagyu mainly because it's such a quality beef, and it's consistent. Some beef, some breeds, you may have a good animal every now and then, but Wagyu produces really consistently good beef every time.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu from our pasture to your plate. TexasBeefHouse.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been there in quite some time, you're missing out on the improvements for our members. New flooring in the weight room and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added in the weight room and group exercise room, with more new machines arriving over the next few months. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines on spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Botch, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. There's sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. The amenities are great. 16 tennis courts plus an 1,100-seat stadium court, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Visit our website, wacotennis.com, or visit Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Adam Rittenberg, ESPN.com, joins us now on 365 Sports. Craig Smoak, David Smoak here as we take you through this Monday afternoon into the evening, and it's 4:34. Adam is about to embark on getting away. Adam, are you allowed to do that anymore with all the stories that seem to still be lingering in college athletics?
Well, I'm leaving, and if they want to expand and they want to do media rights deals, have at it, because I won't really be reasonable for the next week. It's funny that you say that, because last year I was with my colleague Kyle Bonaguro. We were on a golf course in California on the third hole when I got a text from somebody about USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten. So you're right. There really isn't much of an off season. A lot of these big stories have seemingly happened, sometime between now and August 1st. So I'm sure there will be news, but we have a wonderful and talented staff of colleagues, and they'll be just fine covering whatever happens over the next week.
Adam, I know that you, like many people, are fatigued by expansion and realignment talk and all that type of stuff. I was more, though, wanting to ask a question just in regards to Brett Yormark and what you think of the job that he's done in terms of trying to revitalize the Big 12, trying to freshen up the brand, and, probably poking and prodding around in places that people don't necessarily like or are accustomed to, just the way that he's doing it a little bit more brazen. But just what have you kind of gathered around the college sports landscape, and what have you thought yourself about the way that he's come in, guns blazing, for better or worse, with the Big 12?
Yeah, I think he's what the Big 12 needed right now. It was a brand that needed some freshening up. It needed a bit more outward aggression and also some creativity. I mean, what they are doing with this Mexico, moving games across different sports into Mexico and trying that out, I really like that. That's creative. Are any of us going to say for sure it's going to work? No, but I like that they're giving it a shot, and it's something different. And so it's not just poking the Pac-12 and having obviously a very outward and public stance towards expansion. They're doing a lot behind the scenes to rethink how to improve the Big 12 brand. At a time when the Big 10 and the SEC are distancing themselves in revenue and interest level, I think he was definitely the right guy at the right time for the Big 12, given what that league had been through. So I don't have an issue with Brett's approach at all. I think it's been great for the Big 12. But it's not just about the expansion. I think it's some of the other things that are going on as well that maybe don't get as much attention as with, the possibilities for who might enter the league.
Adam, what were your thoughts when you heard what Greg Sankey said last week in D.C., which he all but just should have put Brett Yormark's name in his comments about how he goes about business and is not out there like stirring the pot?
Yeah, I mean, again, Greg's a career administrator in college athletics and has seen, most of these realignment pushes go on from behind closed doors, and they seem to just pop up right before they actually happen. So, Greg also took shots at Kevin Warren. I think anyone who sort of doesn't fall in line with the way that he wants to maybe approach things is maybe looked down upon a little bit from the SEC ivory tower. But I think it's just different approaches. It was kind of laughable, the comment about how, can't we all be done with expansion now that the SEC's gotten what they wanted? Yep. Now everybody else should that's just not how it works. And the Big 12 has every right to continue to look for creative ways to improve its membership. So, again, not really surprising. But different approaches, and Greg is obviously in a position of strength as the leader of the SEC.
What was of more interest to you last week? Was it the Big Ten releasing their schedules for next year with the LA schools included, or was it the SEC punting basically on trying to remodel their schedules for the same year and sticking with the 8 conference games, which obviously was a controversy depending on where you looked?
Right. Well, I think they were both interesting in different ways. When we knew the Big Ten's decision for 2024, they had to announce the schedule sooner or later. And I think what they did was pretty admirable for a number of reasons. Normally, when scheduling is announced, guys, the big thing is, well, it's the same for everybody because we have to project fairness. The Big Ten didn't do that. And I think they should be commended for it because what they did is that they looked at the games that really needed to be played, and they talked to their members and said, which of these games are non-negotiable? Which of these games could you live without every single year? Maybe you'll get them 3 out of every 5 years. And they crafted a scheduling formula where I think my favorite thing about it is that every matchup in the conference will occur at least twice in 4 years, once home and once away. So as someone who, since I started covering the Big Ten, the most relevant game across the 15 years that I've covered the league has been Ohio State and Penn State. That's not a protected game. I would love to see it protected, but even though it's not, guys, that game is going to occur at least 2 out of every 4 years, and probably more often than that, over the next 10 years. That's my guess. So I think that was a really good thing, especially when you're integrating new members, going from 14 to 16. The fact that every player, if they come through a Big Ten football program, will be able to play in every venue. Every school will make at least one trip to LA in the next couple of years. So I think, again, as somebody who enjoys seeing good football and seeing teams in the league play one another, I appreciated their approach. The SEC, I do think they'll get there in 2025, but I've been saying that for a number of years. I've been very publicly critical of their scheduling formula. SEC fans don't seem to care. They seem to like less SEC football for some reason instead of more SEC football. But I guess at the end of the day, I wasn't that surprised that they reached the decision that they did to remain at 8 games for 2024. Again, I don't think it serves SEC fans or players. Certainly doesn't serve the media partners as well as a 9-game schedule. But every time I bring up that point, a bunch of SEC fans tell me don't tell us how to feel about our football. So keep enjoying less. Keep enjoying less SEC football. I know Big Ten fans and Big 12 fans and Pac-12 fans will enjoy seeing each of their teams playing one another a lot more often.
It's interesting you say that about the SEC, and it's an amazing conference, their success, and but just football, but let's talk football. You don't tell us how to do this, and yet all you hear is them wanting to tell you how good they are. And they back it up, but it's like they invented the game of football.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's interesting to hear, and nobody's questioning that they're the top conference, and yet they still want that acknowledgement. It's kind of amusing to me because it's almost like they're shouting at the clouds. I mean, who's really questioning your dominance? But in this context, when I hear from fans of teams that have no shot of winning a national title, how staying at 8 games helps the league win a national, it's like, what does that matter for your team? Your team's never playing a bunch of teams in the other division. You're going 8, 10, 12 years without playing in a certain venue. That has nothing to do with winning a national championship. And I'm of the belief, I don't know how you guys feel, that if the SEC had been at 9 conference games, they would still win the national championship almost every year. Maybe 1 or 2 teams wouldn't have made the playoff, but even with that 9-game conference formula, the great teams are going to win national championships. The Georgias, the Alabamas, occasionally LSU, occasionally somebody else. That would still have been achievable, and it certainly would be achievable in the 12-team playoff format, which is why I think the SEC will get there, just not as soon as some of us would like.
Adam, as we get into Big 12 Media Days next month, there's obviously a lot of great storylines. Final year for the conference with Texas and OU. First year with the 4 new schools. What's a story, what's a personality, or what's a headline potentially when you think of the Big 12 right at the moment that stands out to you?
Well, I think that, for Texas, it's kind of if not now, when. Because they have, I think, a roster that is set up to win the Big 12 in their final year of the deal of being in the conference, but they haven't won in so long, and they haven't performed in some of those big games. But you look at who they have coming back on offense, who they have coming back on defense, some of the transfers that they added into their program. There's a lot of pressure, but a lot of excitement around Texas to see if they can win the Big 12, because then you transfer to the SEC. It may be even longer before Texas wins another conference title. And if it's not Texas, who is it going to be? Is it going to be Kansas State again? Is it going to be TCU if they can reload? They lose a lot of really good players. Can Baylor rise up and be a contender again 2 years after winning the league? What about Oklahoma? Should be a better team in year 2 under Brett Venables. Can they be a Big 12 contending team? Certainly possible. And then you never know with the teams coming into the league. History has shown that when you move from one conference to another, you're likely not a contender in that new league right away. So, but UCF's got talent. Obviously, BYU has a lot of talent. But I think for me, it's Texas. Can they actually win the Big 12 with what I believe is the best roster in the conference before transitioning on? And I should also mention Texas Tech. Texas Tech has a team with all those returning starters, and Tyler Shuck just named the quarterback again. Joey McGuire's very bullish on his team. Can they take that jump like Baylor has taken, like Kansas State has taken, like others have taken to challenge in the Big 12, or are they going to be more in that 8 or 9 win range?
Adam, your thoughts about last week? There's always, every week, something does seem to flare up or someone reports something, and it's become a turf war with the Pac-12, the media rights, and even those, the Big 12 has their side too. But there was a report that some administrator had told a reporter out of Oregon, I guess John Canzano, that they would beat the Big 12's number. Also, that happened, I think, a day or two after the story came out about they had already signed the grant of rights. And the first question we had was, why would you do that if you don't know the details?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you don't sign the grant of. I mean, nothing has happened until the numbers have been presented. And I think what Washington State's president said last week at their Regents meeting is probably accurate, which is it going to be a number that's way above where they're at now? No. Is it going to be a number that's way below where they're at now? No. Is it going to be something that's mostly flat? Probably. And so what then do the teams that could have a Big 12 outlet do at that point? Do they remain in the Pac-12? Do they sign what will be a short grant of rights deal, a 5 or 6 year deal? Or do they make that move and accept, obviously, the invitations that have been very publicly extended by the Big 12? But even sources I've talked to in Colorado, which is clearly the likeliest existing Pac-12 school to jump to the Big 12, said, why would we do anything until we see the numbers and really decide what's best for us in the future? So that's going to happen at some point. I mean, I think what I think last time we were on it, we talked about this, that if in a normal media negotiation timeline, we are approaching the time of year that you would typically have a media deal done. What's different here is that the Pac-12 opened up those negotiations so early, and it's taken so long to present concrete numbers to the membership to then either sign a grant of rights and stay together, or in some cases look to leave the conference.
Would it have been as big a story, or would it be as big a story had the Big 12 not extended back when they did back in October?
No, yeah, absolutely, it wouldn't have been as big. I mean, that certainly amplified it and created more tension around the Pac-12. I mean, you wonder now in hindsight, what if the Pac-12 had never opened its negotiations early? Would the Big 12 have followed? Maybe the Big 12 would have anyway, and still reached the deal that it got. But the fact that the Pac-12 did open those negotiations, the Big 12 soon followed, got its deal done so quickly, and now we're still sitting here on June 12th and without an announcement from the Pac-12 it certainly created more tension around that conference.
You wrote a story about Deion. It's back in March, and obviously that's 3 months ago, nearly 2.5 months ago. What are your thoughts now, 2.5 months later? I know they got a couple of nice commitments in the last 24 hours. The way he's worked, at least his first few months in Boulder.
Well, it hasn't been boring, and I think they have certainly turned over such a big portion of the roster. They've created a lot more hype around their program. They're attracting recruits and some some transfers, not a ton, but some transfers that they wouldn't have been able to in the past. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it evolves when we have results, when we have games to judge Colorado on. It's obviously a tough schedule, as you guys know, beginning with TCU, featuring USC and Oregon in the month of September, also Nebraska, Colorado State. So I think how they start the season is going to be fascinating, but it's clear that Colorado and Deion's message are reaching recruits that wouldn't have considered Colorado for the most part a year ago. Now, I would say this, Colorado has added good players in recent years. All you have to do is look at some of the NFL drafts. Christian Gonzalez, top 10 pick, was a Colorado recruit. He ended up transferring to Oregon and blowing up there as a cornerback. So, there have been some good players in there. I think the real challenge for Deion and his staff, in talking to some of their coaches, I've seen them at some recruiting camps lately, they have to bring this team together very quickly. A lot of new players, they have to learn the system. They have to figure out how to become a team in much less time than most teams do. They essentially have, I wouldn't say lost half the off season, but most of the players were not there in the spring. And so they're going to have to figure out a way to come together and learn their systems and ultimately be ready to play on September 2nd against TCU and throughout that month. Because I think that if they're not, the narrative around Colorado will change pretty dramatically.
Hey, Adam, have a great vacation no matter what else happens over the next few days. Enjoy it. Play a little golf, get some fresh air, smell the roses. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, Smokey. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Adam Rittenberg, ESPN.com, with us on 365 Sports.
Yeah, you just kind of casually slid in that one realignment piece. We've gone 2 hours without mentioning it, but you did have there on Friday, not John Willender, the other John, that put out there that I guess one of his sources said, we will beat the Big 12's number. I mean, just flat like that. Now, there was a paywall, and I wasn't going to pay, I'll be honest with you. And so I don't know what it said beyond that, but just going off the headline, unless that was entirely misleading, which I don't think that would be the case. That's what one of the beliefs is right now amongst the Pac-12 folks. And again, that could also be just somebody BSing because they feel like that's the smart play right now that they need to do, or it could be just somebody, hey, after 5 o'clock cocktails, letting it rip and letting you know what's really what. I mean, that's for everybody to kind of decide on their own until we see something factual, but that was an interesting little punctuation on the week, given how it kind of ebbed and flowed with the, Big 12 saying something, the Pac-12 saying, like, there was a lot of back and forth last week, it felt like.
Yep.
And, for the end result to be no deal, even though that was teased quite a bit, or no, big something really happening. Certainly it wasn't just the fact that they've agreed to some things. I mean, I did give that more credence and more value than probably a lot of people did. I didn't think that was absolutely nothing. But ultimately, as has always been the case, this all circles back to what that deal looks like, whenever that is. And by the end of the week, you had somebody on the Pac-12 side, at least, telling one reporter that they feel it's going to beat the Big 12's number. Now, that was said by one of the presidents back in like February and March, so that's not unprecedented. But to be saying this far down the line, you do wonder. And look, a lot of the responses that I've seen in regards to that have been, well, they should. I mean, they should have a better number. They have bigger markets, and they have, I guess in total bigger brands and, more valuable brands and things like that. But that's kind of the expectation now, I suppose. And I know there's still plenty of Big 12 people who are just refusing to believe that's the case. But what have I said all along? I said the goofiest thing, and I've said this from day one, months and months ago. I was like, what is going to happen when all this is said and done, not realizing it would still be June and we'd still be talking about this, but the Pac-12 pops a bigger number. Like, what is the Big 12 side going to do? And then vice versa.
Oh, my God.
If the Pac-12 comes in like $7 million short, like what's that going to look like?
There's going to be a group that looks really, really good and will never let it end. And there's some that will just like go into just like disappear.
Yeah, there definitely some disappearances.
Under the biggest Twitter rock of all time.
Yeah, so I don't know. If you want to believe that, last source, then by all means, but I don't know where we are really in the grand scheme of things, and I haven't read that full article and what that actually detailed outside of the headline, but that was out there, and, it's of interest, obviously, when everybody's, saying things left and right, and this one off the record, but still notable if it was coming from a Pac admin.
All right, the 5 o'clock hour will include Kennington Lloyd-Smith, who covers Alabama. Here's a story about the University of Houston men's basketball coach Kelvin Sampson. Joseph Duarte, who's been on with us many times, Houston Chronicle. New contract worth $4.7 million, putting him in the top 8 nationally based on last year's contract numbers in case there are some incentives that move up other contracts or annual salaries. So Kelvin Sampson Hey, you can do that because he's really good. You could also do that because Houston now has more money coming their way with the addition along with whatever else they're doing. In fact, Garrett, you had another story about the University of Houston's football attendance. TD-ECU Stadium selling more than 23,500 season tickets, including 6,000 new season tickets entering their first year in the Big 12. You have something else?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to the Kelvin Sampson
thing.
Well,
do it.
Yeah, I wanted to see what exactly that said again, if you wouldn't mind. 4.7. So based on Front Office Sports, he was making 3.2, and that had him in the top 6 last year. So he'd still, I guess others have had new deals drawn up since then, so he might have slid down a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, that puts him in line with Izzo, Barnes, Cronin, I guess Nate Oates, Danny Hurley at Connecticut, and that's about, kind of his group of guys around him right now. There's only a handful. So, yeah, he's making great money. Already was, but now he's making even better money, and he's firmly within that top 8, it looks like. So, yeah, between that and the attendance stuff, I mean, that's huge to have those season tickets sold. I'm sure, that Big 12 lineup is playing into that, including that Texas game. Had to be awfully appetizing for folks, knowing that might be the last time for a really, really long time. And the first time in a while, right? I mean, I don't even know the last time that they did play, but certainly will be the last time probably for a while. So, yeah, that's great to see that. I'm sure that's the case across all the other 3 as well to some extent.
And their numbers of 6,000 tickets when you're talking about 23.5, that's a huge jump in percentage. And their stadium is what it is. And obviously there's some that always like to take a little needle and pop a balloon when there's something positive about a stadium that might be 35 or 50,000 or 55 or 60, and it's not a part of the monstrosities of 75,000 up to 110,000.
Do you know when they last played? Houston and Texas?
I would say
I'm going to say 90. I'm going to say, whoa. Was it the 90? I'm going to say 90.
You're all wrong. It was
89.
2002.
Oh, okay. They played recently.
They played 80s through the 90s, stopped in 95.
Right before the Big 12 started.
Yep, and then resumed in 2000, 2001, 2002, and Mac Brown proceeded to beat up on Dana Dimmel there for 3 consecutive years. But that was the 3-game break, and then, yeah, that was the last time, that little cluster since 1995. So over 20 years since they last played, and that'll be a crazy atmosphere. Hopefully Houston's pretty good. I know we expect Texas to be, but I know there's also plenty of folks who seem to be split or not that positive, optimistic on Houston this year. But I'd like for them to be pretty good, so that spices that game up even a little further. But that ought to be a cool atmosphere.
They basically averaged almost 50 points a game the last 4 times they've played, last 5 times they played. But I'll never forget that stretch. David McWilliams, 87, 88, and 89, which is still kind of mind-boggling. 60-40 Houston, 66-15, 47-9. That's when they were running that run and shoot and putting up massive numbers. Andre Ware and company. Well, that rivalry was really, really good. They didn't play for the longest of time, and then they were a part of the Southwest Conference, and there were some great. But Texas overall leads that series 16-7 with 2 ties. I don't know of any series in football that has been played, I'm going to say, more than 6 to 10 times where Texas doesn't have the lead in the series.
Yeah, I don't think there's
because they had such an incredible run with a lot of schools that now, maybe there's 1 or 2, but I'm talking about 6 to where you've had meat on the bone when it comes to them playing. When we come back, Kennington Lloyd-Smith covers Alabama. He's next. This is 365 Sports.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Cars priced right, both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
This is 365 Sports. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
Pretty interesting. Kennington Lloyd-Smith, who the third, joined us back when he was covering Iowa. Now, theathletic.com and covers Alabama, joins us. Craig Smoak, David Smoak on 365 Sports. So what was that phone call like?
Indescribable. Just like crazy, surreal, all of those things. Just excited to kind of be moving on and onto something new, and I'm excited to be back here with you.
Has it changed your day-to-day operations? Not that you weren't always on the alert, when you were always looking for stories, whatever, but is it just a different animal, with all due respect to Iowa?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the equivalent to covering a professional team. I mean, Alabama is the premier brand in college football. Nick Saban is the premier figure in the sport, and the attention and the intensity that comes with covering this university, especially at a time like this, is unparalleled to something that I've experienced before. So Iowa was a unique beast in itself, but Alabama is in a different atmosphere, so it has been a little bit of a step up. I am on high alert, just like I was in Iowa, but again, like at a school like this, literally anything can happen at any moment. So you have to continue to stay on your toes, but it's been a fun first month.
Kennington, what did you think? What was your big takeaway from SEC Media Days, being a part of that whole extravaganza, but also obviously a lot of talk about kind of the usual topics, but in particular the scheduling?
Yeah, I think just in general, I think it's really interesting whenever kind of the biggest names in the sport the Kirby Smarts, Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher, when all of those guys get together and they talk about important issues, it definitely garners not only local and regional attention, but national attention. So that was kind of the first thing that sticks out. Scheduling is a really big thing. Everybody is trying to figure out what they're going to do across the country. Some schools are going to the 9 game. The SEC is obviously going to stay at 8 this year, and they're going to be at 8 next year. It's kind of stalled out in terms of what they want to do. I think Greg Burns said it best, Alabama's athletic director, when he said at this point they don't have enough information to make a decision about how 9 games versus 8 is going to affect the conference, the college football playoff, all of those things. So it definitely is something that's still ongoing. It feels like them going to the 8-game format in 2024 is kind of patchwork to figure out what they want to do in the long term. But, Kirby Smart's kind of annoyed by the conversation. I know Nick Saban has his own feelings as well, especially on the permanent opponent side, but this is a conversation that isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, is it almost like they want to go to 9 and yet they're worried about the repercussions of maybe rivalries, or is it just money of non-conference games? They're going to have 80, 90, 100,000 people in their stadium?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of both. When you're talking about the money, the way that it's been described to me is there was a number that was negotiated between the SEC and ESPN for an 8-game schedule. Well, if you add another conference game, that could be Georgia, Alabama. That is worth some money outside of what was previously negotiated. So, when Texas, Oklahoma comes into the conference, that extra 9th game could be Texas, Georgia, could be Oklahoma, Florida, Oklahoma, LSU. So how are those things going to play into the money side? You obviously have to work out the non-conference, like you pointed out, because future opponents, you have to kind of go back and rework some things. You're going to have to drop 1 game because you're adding a conference game. So those logistical things have to be worked out as well. And then something that Kirby Smart raised a point to as well is even outside of the games themselves, the repercussions of going to the SEC championship are going to be a little bit different now in this expanded playoff format. When, it might be advantageous for a team to not go to the SEC championship, it would be the highest ranked non-conference champion and get that 5 seed. So that's kind of where he's kind of trying to divert the conversation to, even away from scheduling. So everybody has their own agenda and their own thoughts about how this is going to affect the landscape moving forward. And I think it's a little bit overwhelming for everybody right now, which is why we don't have definitive answers.
As for the team itself, Kennington, would you say the quarterback competition is clearing itself up at all, or is it still a mystery as to who takes those first snaps? Obviously, got Buckner in there joining Simpson and Jalen Milroe, and I know that I think it was Feinbaum had the comments that were out there about Milroe possibly separating himself, but would you say that's the big question mark right now, and how much of a question does that remain?
Yeah, I think it's the biggest question mark on the team. I think it's one of the biggest questions in college football because Alabama hasn't been in this situation for several years. I think the last true quarterback competition that they had was Blake Barnett versus Jalen Hurts, and that was several years ago. And I don't think that it's clearing up at the moment. I think that honestly there's probably more uncertainty than there has been because now you add Tyler Buckner into the mix. When you have Jalen Milroe, who has played and started and won games for Alabama last year. Ty Simpson was a heralded recruit, and both of those guys have been in the program for multiple years, and you go through a spring practice with those guys and you still feel the need to add a quarterback. That raises questions about how the coaches feel about the quarterback room. And I don't know if they're going to get any definitive answers in the summer because there's so much limited work. But I do think to Feinbaum's point about Milroe, the fact that he took the initiative to bring his receivers with him for a throwing session shows the element of leadership that the coaches want in that position. So I think from that lens, he probably put himself ahead a little bit in terms of emerging as a true leader. But I don't think that this quarterback competition is anywhere close to being settled. I think it's going to play out into the fall.
Yeah, that's something that's new for them. They've had competition with Bryce Young and Tua or whatever, or Jalen Hurts, excuse me. But it's for them not to know. Have you had a chance? What's the access you have to Nick Saban? I know you don't like it to call him up or text him. What is the access with him?
Yeah, it's been interesting because we're at a weird point in the year where there's really not a lot going on. So I have had a chance to be up close with him in person 2 times, but they were both through his Knicks Kid Foundation event. One was a charity golf tournament. Another one was him building a house and donating it to a family in Tuscaloosa area. So those weren't exactly your typical environments where it's strictly dead on football conversation. So the access is pretty limited. He's a pretty recluse person, and the sports information directors at Alabama kind of follow suit in that way. So there isn't a ton in the summer. We'll see what it looks like going into the later summer and into the fall. But my plan is just to go in there, be myself, and take advantage of the opportunities I presented, and hopefully come out with some good content.
Kennington Smith III with us, Lloyd-Smith III, The Athletic, covers Alabama. It almost seems as if they're coming off their best recruiting class ever, and that's almost impossible to say because of how dynamic their classes have been for over a decade. But do you get the impression that there's still this kind of like wobbly concern about who they might be or not?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, to your point, they do have a lot of talent, and I think this is going to be a unique year where that talent is going to be relied upon to contribute in a major way this fall. There's going to be a lot of true freshmen in the 2D potentially this fall. And in terms of the team identity, I think going back to the quarterback conversation, the last several years has been an offensive-led team where you have a Heisman Trophy winner, first round, in Bryce Young's case, number one overall talent at quarterback, and you're going to have dynamic playmakers on the perimeter, and the defense is going to be good, and that's the identity of Alabama's team. But it's going to be completely different this year. Don't know who the quarterback is going to be. Don't know if there's going to be that dominant receiver that's going to emerge on the perimeter. There wasn't one last year, and it certainly hurt the offense. The defense is going to be really good, and the special team should be sound. The question mark is going to be where is the offensive consistency going to come from, and that's been different than what we've seen in Alabama in years past. So I think this team, the identity is going to be more so shifting towards, can Alabama play complementary football at the highest level like Georgia has done? When you look at what they did with Stetson Bennett, they didn't have the number one pick at quarterback. They're still able to win a couple of national championships. If Alabama can get competent quarterback play, have some consistency on offense with that really good defense, then they should be a factor, which Alabama hasn't had to play that way in a while. So I think that the identity of the team is a little bit of a question mark, and it's going to be really interesting to see what it looks like, in early September.
I saw the story with Grant Nelson. This is basketball. He's now going to commit, or I'm not sure if it's official, with Alabama, the young man from North Dakota State.
Yes. He's expected to commit to Alabama. He has not officially said anything himself, but that is the expectation. It came down to Alabama and Arkansas.
Kennington, just one more question for me. What was it like covering the Super Regionals? I know Bama falls short, but then turn right around and announce their brand new head coach. Obviously, a turbulent year with some unexpected adversity, I guess you could say. But just your thoughts on how they, pushed through that, where they got, and now where maybe they're headed.
Yeah, I think when you look at this story, it's one of the more unique in recent memory across any sport in college athletics, where you had a team that lost their coach in the middle of the season to a betting scandal, which is one element of it. But at that time, Alabama was not a surefire NCAA tournament team. I mean, I think if you look at past projections, they were like a 3 seed. So they were kind of on the bubble at that point, and I think some people might have expected their season to spiral, but they go on this incredible run. They host a regional for the first time in 17 years. Then they go on to their first Super Regional since 2010. So a pretty incredible story of a team that kind of banded together under their interim coach, Jason Jackson, and made it as far as they did. They ran to an absolute buzzsaw in Wake Forest, and you saw the type of talent, what type of team that they have. But, I don't think people out here are holding their heads at all about what Alabama baseball has accomplished this year. And in terms of their new coach, Rob Vaughn, somebody who's young, he's in his mid-30s, and he won at a place where it's not easy to win in baseball in Maryland, in a conference that nationally does not command the same level of respect as the SEC does. So he was able to go to a place, limited resources, and win a lot there and take that team to, the NCAA tournament 3 years in a row. So he's going to come down to Alabama in a conference where baseball is very important. So step up for him, but I think that he's somebody who is prepared for the opportunity, and I think Alabama fans should be excited about what he's going to bring to the table. And interim coach Jason Jackson has been promoted to associate head coach. So he's going to be the top assistant on staff, and I think that's going to go a long way within the locker room and the fan base.
Well, you're doing a hell of a job already, Kennington. I know you put all that together. You missed the basketball drama, obviously the sad story and tragedy, but Nate Oates was under fire, as you know. Nice pickup today with Nelson. And then the baseball stuff with the gambling. It's like it's already a big place to cover, and now it's even bigger with some of the stories they have. We appreciate your time. Look forward to having you on in the future.
Yeah, 100%. Hopefully there isn't as much drama this year with Alabama Athletics, my first year on the beat, but you have to kind of come to expect the unexpected, especially down here in the SEC. But I appreciate y'all having me on, and I look forward to the next time.
You too. Kennington Smith, the third Athletic on Alabama, and we appreciate his time. He covered Iowa for the longest of time as well. All right, when we come back, more to get to. 365 Sports. Garrett Ross, Graham Bronstein, Jack McKenzie, Emery Winter are all here. Don't forget Sports Tonight at 10:30 on the CW. Twice this weekend. Once when I was getting my mail at the complex, the condo where I live, and also on the golf course with somebody I didn't know coming up to me and saying that they watch the late night show religiously, the 10:30 show on the CW. And I didn't even bring up the fact that the corner store right there on Lakeshore, which I drive by to get to the studio, stopped to get gas, and had someone walk up and tell me that they watched us on the radio station, have not missed much at all of what we've done as they watch us here on 365 Sports YouTube too. This is 365 Sports. Father's Day coming up this weekend. So what would a gym bring to the table? They have different type gifts for you to take advantage of. Personal training packages, gift cards to the gym, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, tanning package, memberships available, pickleball, paddle, or tennis racket. They have a pro shop inside the front door off to the left, court shoes, depending on what sport, and then also even tennis lessons are available. All of those are unique Father's Day gifts that maybe you haven't thought about before, and so why not? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco. They just had a collegiate, showcase tennis tournament over the weekend that was incredibly successful. Pickleball social that was on last week, and all the tournaments that they host, and just the pickleball group that's a really fast-growing sport and activity too. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin. And you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. 365 Sports as we head to the middle part of the 5 o'clock hour. News of Adam Schobel, quarterback at Columbus High School, committing to Baylor, 6'5", 190-pound sophomore quarterback class of 2025. And we're now joined by his father, who, pretty good football player himself, high school, college, and the pro, joins us now on 365 Sports. Matt Schobel, the head coach at Columbus. Matt, kind of give us an idea. I know he's your son. You're a football coach, but your thoughts about the recruitment and his decision, Adam's decision to commit to Baylor.
Obviously a lot has changed in the recruiting game since my last experience with it, which for the most part was whenever I was coming through as a player. But a lot of the same things you're looking for then, you're looking for now, and probably as a parent, as his parent, it probably even more so. But you're looking for the right fit. You're looking for good people, and I think it's important for Adam and for all of us, and we're glad it's important to him to be somewhat close to home, and that all those boxes are checked. And what really stood out is just how comfortable we feel about the people there, and I'm talking about the coaches and the little amount of interaction he's had with other people there, but mostly his comfort with the coaches. And what Coach Aranda kind of said to us the other day was exactly the way I feel about building our team here, and just the camaraderie and the chemistry and the culture is number one, most important. And a lot of people say it, but you can tell that he lives it, and that's important to him. It's important to us, so it's obviously very exciting.
Coach, just what's it like before we dive more into Aranda and the decision itself? But as you mentioned, you been through this previously a while back, but as a father, to just see the phone calls coming in, or to hear about the DM that he got, or the offer, and then to know just how monumental it is to actually go forth and make a decision. Just what's that experience been like, and is it a whirlwind, or is it maybe you would describe it otherwise?
I wouldn't say a whirlwind. I would just say it's been very exciting and very flattering for me, and obviously my wife, but even more so for Adam. And he works really, really hard. All of our kids do. We're extremely proud of our program here, and the kind of kids that we have in our program. And we push them really, really hard. And Adam's no different. And, obviously proud of him, but, it's exciting more than anything. And he's excited and we are. And, but you can only pick one school. And, I think he's had a lot of interest, and I assume that there will probably be more schools that try. But he feels very comfortable, and we feel very comfortable with Baylor. And that it was, it's a lot of people think it's early, but it feels very comfortable. And the proximity to home won't change, and we feel great about the coaches and then the offense as well. Those things are all. It was kind of a why not. It felt very, very comfortable.
Matt, when you were recruited out of Columbus High School and ended up at TCU, do you remember how long before you signed, which would have been in February then, how long before you signed did you commit to TCU?
I actually went to A&M for 1 year and then transferred to TCU. It wasn't, I would say it was somewhere in probably the spring of my junior year, if I were to guess. So yeah, not this early, that's for sure, but it's a different time for sure. And I don't think that part of it I don't think is bad at all. For us, we feel comfortable, he feels comfortable, and now we can focus on us. And he's not the kind of kid that's gonna want to go visit every place in the country. And I mean, how many pats on the back do you need? And he feels he's ready to just for example, we're not going to go to 20 camps this summer. It allows him to be here with his teammates and work out, and we can focus on our team. And he it's a great fit. Obviously he's excited about it, but that's down the road. Right now he's he's focused on getting better every day, getting stronger, getting faster, and working with his teammates so we can have the kind of season that we want to have here.
Matt Schobel, head coach at Columbus High School. His son, Adam, giving Baylor a commitment to the class of 2025. So Columbus High School, for those that don't know, and I've covered high school football for 42 years, last year you guys were really good. He put up huge numbers, 12-2, and when I noticed, and I just made sure I double-checked it to verify, you lost to Franklin by 3 in the playoffs. We know how good they are. How good were you?
Yeah, we had a really good team. We had a really good senior class, a bigger class, and this was our 4th year, so they'd been in our program all 4 years. And you talked about the Franklin game. We actually had the lead until I want to say it was around 20, 25 seconds left. They took the lead on us, so it was a tough one to say the least. I think the Washington kid that's at Baylor now scored the game-winning touchdown with just seconds left. So it was tough, but we had we felt like we had a good chance to anybody to win a state championship, and obviously Franklin's won 32 in a row now, 2 state championships, and we went toe to toe with them. So we played really well that night. Just weren't able to finish it out.
How would you describe Adam as a quarterback? His strength, and maybe obviously just being a sophomore entering his junior year, things he needs to work on.
Yeah, when we started him as a freshman, so he's already started the last 27 games, and the first thing that jumped out was just how poised and calm he was those first couple weeks and those first couple games. That was really impressive to me. I know that looking back when I was his age, that would have been a big stage for me, and that would have been hard. And he handled it. He handled it great. Immediately, all the guys liked him being in the huddle, liked him liked his presence, and he brought. But I was really impressed with his poise. The things you don't really know at that point is, will he stand in there? Will he take hits? And he's done all that. So he's tough and he's competitive, and he's a good teammate. He was the freshman and the sophomore of the bunch, so he was a young guy. Now he's kind of becoming an upperclassman, and he's taking on the role of bringing in the younger guys. So that from day one has been very impressive. And he throws it. He can swing it. So he always could. That's come easy for him. And, just things for him to work on is just continue to get stronger and faster. And just, we talk about every day going out there and maximizing every rep. That's what the really, really good ones do. Obviously, at this level, especially at this point, having played 2 years on varsity and going into the junior year, some people may have a tendency to not practice as hard. Mm-hmm. We talk about not being him, and if he wants to be really good at this level and beyond, that's what those guys do. And so he just needs to continue to grow in all aspects.
6'5", I don't know, 190 or so. How much do you think he can grow? With obviously he's still a pup. How much do you think he could play at as far as his weight when he gets to college?
Yeah, he's right at 6'5" barefoot. So I got to think he'll probably top out around 6'5", and he's a little over 190 right now, and he still looks like a giraffe. He could easily carry 220, 230, and I would think when he graduates from high school, he'll be. I would think he'd be close to that 220. It would be my guess, and he's gotten a lot stronger in the weight room. So I'm very comfortable that he'll be able to carry that weight, and I would think he topped out around 6'5", so 6'5", 225, 230, something like that.
Couple more things. What was his reaction once he made the decision? A lot of times we have players on who commit, and you can tell that there's a relief, a sense of, okay, this part is over. Did you kind of get that sense from him?
Yeah. When he got that offer, when you're a sophomore in high school, you get any offer. These kids are fired up, and he's no different. But when he got the Baylor one, he's been talking. We're always talking, what if? And Baylor was just always popping up. That they're, I went to TCU, so it's being comfortable with a smaller school. My wife went to TCU, but Baylor's, hour and 45, hour and 30 minutes closer. And obviously, just the character of their staff. I can't say that enough. That's, I'm not taking away from anybody else, but anybody you talk to, that's what they say, that those are really, really good people. And, you hear that over and over, the more people you talk to. And that kept coming back to that. And it was kind of like, if Baylor offers, and then when they did, it was kind of like, what are you looking for? What are we looking for? This is kind of the one you've been hoping for. And then as he's visited with them and got to know him and then getting on campus and all that stuff, it just made him more and more sure that it was the right place. And like I said, he's not the kind of kid that needs to go all around the country and get told how good he is. That's not him. He'd rather be back here working with his teammates, and that's what we're doing. We got after it this morning, so that's how we do it here.
So be honest, Coach, there wasn't any part of you as TCU parents that were like, Baylor, really? Like, of all the schools you could go to, Baylor, you got to go to the arch rival there, son?
I think since I got into coaching 5 or 6 years ago, I still watch TCU and I'm still a fan, I haven't been quite as into it. So maybe back in the Gary Patterson versus Bryles Baylor time, that might have been a little bit. But it's when your kid starts going through it, it's kind of like when you're going through the NFL draft. I remember thinking, I don't care if I go to, I was a Cowboy fan growing up. I ended up playing for the Eagles, business. So, but it's a good place and it's the right place for him. It doesn't matter what we did 100 years ago.
Yep, great point on that Patterson-Bryles rivalry. Last thing, do you believe in bloodlines and lineage leading to what you have done, your brother has done, your uncle, I guess it was, or his uncle has done as well, as far as football?
We've been around it our whole life, and even going through the recruiting process. I told him, I had 4 or 5 offers. 4 or 5 visits set up, and I only ended up taking 2 of them. And I told Adam I have 0 regrets doing that. And I think preparing him for mentally going away from home, getting in the car that first time and being the new guy, which again probably bothered me more than it does him, having seen the way he jumped in at a young age here, and how he interacts with coaches and places we go. So I don't think that, but just having been through some of the struggles, some of the things he'll probably go through will be beneficial for him. But he's his own person, and he'll do great. We're excited for him.
Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Congratulations on the day for the family, and also we appreciate your time being on the show.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Matt Schobel, head coach at Columbus High School, was at A&M for a year, played at TCU, played in the NFL. So did his brother Aaron, who was at TCU in the NFL, and also his cousin, Matt's cousin Bo, played defensive end, I think, with Jacksonville in the NFL. So some good bloodlines in the Schobel family. When we come back, David Hellman, he'll join us, 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on right now celebrating their 24th anniversary sales event, which means big savings on pre-owned cars and trucks, special savings on GMC Sierra and Buick Envision SUVs. And right now they've got dozens of Sierra trucks on the lot. Qualified buyers can save $3,000 on new 2023 GMC Sierra SLT or SLE 1500s. Qualified buyers can also get 2.9% financing on new 2023 GMC Sierra trucks. Perhaps you're looking less at trucks, more at SUVs. How about a luxury SUV without the luxury price? Right now, qualified buyers can get low financing plus save $2,500 on the Buick Enclave Premium, $3,500 on the Buick Enclave Avenir. And right now, you can go over and test drive the smooth and quiet ride of the Encore, the Envision, or the Enclave from the 2023 Buick line. They've also got a lot full of quality pre-owned cars and trucks as well, many of those under $20,000, but affordable, thoroughly inspected, and ready to finance for almost any credit rating. Plus, their award-winning service department is standing by to keep you on the road in your current vehicle, whether or not you're looking to trade up or buy new or pre-owned. They will get what you're still in working properly. You can go to the website or give them a phone call and set up your appointment for repair and some quality customer service. So check out the people in business for over 24 years in Central Texas, and who during that time have built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
The future's bright, the time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late-night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House. Samantha Duvall is in charge of marketing and also distribution. Memorial Day, right around the corner, 4th of July. What are some of the best opportunities for people if they want to order online and maybe get a bundle when they have those holidays in front of them?
TexasBeefHouse.com. You can order. We've got plenty of family bundles. Probably our most bestseller is our sampler pack. That gives you a variety of our jalapeno and cheese patties, our regular patties, ground beef, our garlic link summer sausage. Right now, all of our family bundles are on sale. It's the best time to buy it. You can buy steaks individually. All of our steaks come 2-to-a package. We ship Monday through Wednesday. So make sure you get your orders in early. That way you can get them almost the next day.
The owner, Aaron Duvall, his daughter-in-law, Samantha Duvall, head of marketing and distribution, unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
And At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It's Jeep season at Allen Samuels in Waco, and the deals are hot. Get a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo with $5,500 in total values, or a 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport with total values up to $6,000.
This is 365 Sports. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
David Ellman covers the NFL for Fox Sports. He's a massive and unapologetic LSU fan for everything, and we'll start off with that. David Ellman joins us. Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina is out for the next couple of weeks. Craig with me, David Smoak, and also 365 Sports. David, your thoughts, LSU, college baseball, World Series. They've been dominant most of the year, and here they are again.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I think it's been 6 years since we've been to Omaha, so a lot of expectations on this team. Preseason number one, kind of looked like they didn't really have a World Series caliber bullpen for a lot of the season, but they got there. So really, really exciting. I'll be honest, I think for the last month or so, I wasn't sure they had what it took, so I'm happy to be wrong.
David, just a shot in the dark here, but have you ever been to Omaha? The various sporting events you've gone to, is that ever a trip you've made?
Yeah, I went last time they went, which was not the happiest ending. They finished the runner-up in 17, so they lost the championship series to Florida. But it's an amazing atmosphere. I will say, I'm debating going again this year. I haven't completely made up my mind yet, but I'm thinking about it. And so when I went in 2017, I will say this. Obviously, I mean, if you have a chance to watch your team win a championship, if you get that chance, you should take it for sure. But I think if you go for the championship series in Omaha, it's not quite the same thing as the beginning because, this weekend, all 8 schools will have their fan base there. It's going to be super rowdy. And I think by the time you whittle it down to 2 teams, A, there's nowhere near as many fans in town, and B, I think a lot of locals are kind of tired out of College World Series. So if I go, I'm going to go this weekend, and I'm a lot more excited to see what it's like with all 8 fan bases in town. I think that sounds like a heck of a lot of fun, whereas, when I went in 2017, it was pretty much just us in Florida. And it was still a good time, but I think this one might be a little more energetic.
David, with the Cowboys wrapping up that mini camp last week, and of course now there's a little bit of a stretch and eventually training camp, what is the Texas Coast offense supposed to be?
Oh, that's a really good question. I wish I had a better answer for you. I mean, I think people have been joking this last week or so about Tex Coast or whatever, Third Coast, whatever you want to call it. I think the gist of it is basically that hopefully, in my opinion anyway, the Cowboys don't feel like they need to reinvent the wheel. I mean, for all the criticisms you might have for Kellen Moore, this has been a top 10 offense and a lot of times a top 3 offense for most of the last 5 years. So I think you want to put Dak Prescott in a position to be comfortable, to do the things that he's good at, to do the things that he's comfortable with. So, and without the benefit of being really able to see anything, I mean, the Cowboys, they didn't do any contact football. They're so concerned about incurring fines on themselves. It's not like we got to see competitive football. So, I don't think anybody has a clear idea of what this thing looks like because nobody's really seen it. But if I had to guess, it's going to be very similar to what we've gotten familiar with, hopefully with a few tweaks for the better.
David, you had the article there a couple of days ago on Dalvin Cook once he was released by the Vikings. Can you summarize just sort of your thoughts on why he's not a move you would make for the Cowboys, and just your thoughts in general? There's been a lot of discussion, obviously, when a guy is, not old by any means, but these running backs in football nowadays are just being turned over like crazy. Just your thoughts on that part of the story, but also the Dallas part of the story, if you will.
Yeah, it's just a tough position with the way the league is currently formatted. I saw Saquon Barkley is the latest guy to kind of talk about how the position's being devalued. And look, we saw this. I think it goes in cycles. We saw, it seemed like nobody cared about the position. The Cowboys famously didn't want to pay DeMarco Murray after he ran for 1,800 yards. Then Todd Gurley and Zeke come along, Christian McCaffrey. And it seems like Alvin Kamara is another one. And it seemed like people were like, okay, so maybe there is value here. But, we know how the Zeke deal went. We know what wound up happening with Christian McCaffrey. Alvin Kamara has seen a dip in his production. It's just hard to invest that kind of money at a position where the decline is inevitable and can come out of nowhere. So, yeah, I mean, I sympathize with running backs. Unfortunately, I just think it makes too much sense to not invest major resources in the position. I don't know what that means for guys that want to play running back going forward, but I don't think it's going away. As far as Dalvin Cook and the Cowboys, I just don't think he's a fit for what makes sense for them. I mean, the report came out this morning. He's looking for a sizable deal. He's not going to settle for a small salary. I mean, he is only 28 years old. He's coming off his fourth straight Pro Bowl. He shouldn't have to settle, but the Cowboys don't need a big money back. They're paying $10 million to Tony Pollard. And I get it. I'm not saying the Cowboys need to give Tony Pollard 25 touches a game, but he's proven that he is capable and worthy of being the number one back. And I don't think you're the number one back if you're sharing a backfield with Dalvin Cook. So between the resources, I mean, the Cowboys are already spending $13 million on the running back position. That's a lot of money for a position that we're seeing is being devalued in years. And on top of that, I just don't know how you make it work with the touches when Dalvin Cook is still clearly looking to be, a Pro Bowl leading back type of guy. I do think it would be smart for the Cowboys to go get another running back. I don't think there are very many of them that make sense for them. Because again, A, because of the money, and B, because of the hierarchy in place where I do think you want Tony Pollard taking the most touches. So I think that's probably something you go to camp and see what you have. You see if Ronald Jones has anything left in the tank. You see if Malik Davis can take another step forward. And if this is still a problem in September, maybe you look at somebody else's roster, or maybe you look at roster cuts. But yeah, I just don't think Dalvin Cook really fits what they need.
David, you mentioned Kellen Moore and the offense the last few years, and they were dynamic. They weren't perfect, but they were up and at 'em and good. Do you think there is any hard feelings at all? Dak will never say that publicly because he's probably the perfect employee. But are there any hard feelings with him losing Kellen Moore?
That's a good question, and you're right. I think Dak is smart enough and diplomatic enough to avoid saying that. Yeah, I don't think that was a very clean separation. I think Mike McCarthy probably wishes he could do that over again. Just talking about how Kellen Moore was still under evaluation way back at the end of the season after, I think the fourth straight year that the Cowboys were top 5, top 10 in offense. And yeah, I mean, Kellen's been with Dak since he was a rookie. Even when Kellen was still a player, he had a big hand in bringing Dak along. So I think Dak Prescott's a consummate professional. I don't think this is something that's going to linger or something that's going to affect his relationship with Mike McCarthy too much. But yeah, I think there are probably some lingering feelings all the way around about maybe that could have been handled a little bit better.
David, thank you. Appreciate your time. Enjoy the
Thanks,
summer.
guys.
And if you go to Omaha, enjoy that dude too. David Hellman, Fox Sports. Yeah, Kellen Moore and Dak were like connected at the hip. And then you have that messy breakup. And you just want Dak's never going to – if there's ever a sign that he might be getting uncomfortable or not happy, if it's he says something that's not like in character with him, which is he's just not going to rock the boat. We'll see what happens. The offense with a lot of weapons as they enter 2023.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what Kellen Moore does with the Chargers. I mean, not like he's just going to some schlub quarterback in, some, small fallback plan. He's got a pretty good player he's going to be working with moving forward. So, I think that worked out well for him ultimately. And, for Dak, time will tell. I mean, the Third Coast offense works for me. Third Coast boys know what Texas raised. Who gets that gets it. Who doesn't. But when I heard Third Coast, I was like, man, that brings me back to like Swish House 20 years ago hearing that term constantly. Yeah. And so I'm good with Third Coast offense. That's what some people refer to the Gulf and the South Coast as. But I saw the Porter Rand fence was like one of David's. People were having fun with what you could call it. So the Porter Rand fence was one that was just awful. And there were various other versions of that Texas Coast offense, I guess, as McCarthy coined it, that they'll be running. But yeah, interested to see it. McCarthy, it's all on him now, right? I mean, it's all the keys are in his hands solely. So if this trip doesn't go the way it's planned, then that'll ultimately be on the driver, and that's Dak to an extent, but that's ultimately Mike McCarthy. So very interesting little next chapter we're entering into when it comes to the Cowboys.
All right, we again tomorrow back at it at 3:00. Don't forget Sports Tonight at 10:30. Want to tell you this before we say goodbye. Jeep season at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo with $5,500 in total values, or a 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport with total values of up to $6,000, or if that's not enough, get 2023 Jeep Compass at 10% off MSRP. And even the Dodge part of Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, the 2023 Dodge Challenger or Dodge Charger, SXT, GT, or RT with total values up to $2,000. That's available at Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, and Ram. 10% off MSRP on a new 2023 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab Plus, or you get 2.9% financing for 72 months, and all first responders are always eligible for a $500 discount too, an extra $500 in options for you. All right, thanks to Graham Bronstein, Jack McKenzie. Also, thanks to Emery Winter, Garrett Ross, great job. No top five. Paul's out for the next couple of weeks. We will have.
Wow, that cuts like 25 minutes off the show if we bail right now.
I had a reminder at 6:15 to make sure I sent the liner by email to KWTX and Josh Young, and it won't come up for 25 minutes. Thanks to Craig Smoak. Great having you with me. I'm David Smoak. Thank you all for being a part of the chat room. This is 365 Sports, and good night.